Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC round 16 of the championship, although it says round 14 there, it is round 14, so I was wrong the first time, my apologies. This is the Formula Sprint 1 championship from Suzuka. There you see the circuit on the screen, and as you can see the cars are out for qualifying, so it is the first session that they are doing in anger today. This could potentially be a championship clinching race event for Tom Stevens, although realistically it's likely to continue to the next round. Whatever the case, there's a real chance that he could put the nail in the coffin today, if it's not already half in. There's the calendar. We're at the Japanese Grand Prix. We've just had the Singapore round. This, of course, not the main Japanese Grand Prix. That will be next week with Super League, but this is a important and significant support race in proceedings here at GPVWC. And then the two final rounds of the championship that they're setting up for will be in Mexico City and then Sao Paulo. Owen McGorgy here starting a lap. And also in the commentary booth with me, the broadcast director, as always, is Szymon Frelik. And I also have my co-commentator here, Ross. Ross, you just about made it in time there. I hear you were struggling in traffic for a bit.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd be nice and give my friend a lift home, and that was a mistake, I'll say that much. But we just about made it in time, and just for qualifying as well here at the always fantastic Suzuka International Circuit, one of the best tracks in the world, let alone on the calendar. We're on board with Owen McGorgy here as he makes his way through Degnet 1 and 2. Yeah, real pleasure to be here for these two races tonight. As you said, Kanan, looking at, I believe it's 26 and 16 laps is the two races that we are 26 and 18 apologies. They're the two races we've got set for tonight, and as always, a night chock full of GPVWC action. Hello and welcome if you're just joining us to this is round 14, I want to say
14
round what of the I don't know, it's a round in the championship at some point. Yeah, round 14 race something or other, I think. Yeah, go along with it. But we're here at Suzuka for one of the rounds of the Formula Sprint 1 Championship. And well, as you said, Kane, it could be a championship deciding round for Tom Stevens. If my math serves me correctly, he has to come away with here with a 90-point advantage over Owen McGorgy. And he will take the championship on countback, let alone the points difference.
Close. It's 94. You've forgotten to factor in the fastest laps,
but
that's
course.
Okay.
I do apologise. Well, 94 in countback.
Special livery today for Tom Stevens' car and the Nocturne team. That is for breast cancer awareness, which is why they are bright pink today. There's Jake Denahan going bright purple in the second sector, and coming across the line to set the provisional pole time, which is just quicker than Owen McGorgy in the early stages of this session. So currently Denahan first, then McGorgy, Lexo, Stevens, and Hamming the top five, but plenty more laps continuing to be set. Suzuka is a real driver's circuit. Drivers seem to absolutely love this venue. I personally find it a really tricky circuit to get the hang of. There are a lot of corners here where you've got to be precise, and there are some corners where even after having driven this circuit for years, I'm still not sure of the ideal line. That hairpin that Perseus Miram there has just been through is one of those examples. But anyway, we very nearly have a full house of drivers here today. Unfortunately, we don't have the Virtual Drivers by TX3 team, because unfortunately both of their drivers have encountered technical difficulties on the lead up to the race. One of them, apparently their PC is crashing every 20 minutes or so, and the other one has had a complete power outage for the last 24 hours. So unfortunately neither of those drivers have been able to make it here today, but every other team has both cars on the grid, which is fantastic to see, and it's the first time we've had 28 cars here in a good few rounds now. So everyone's showing up now for the Suzuka round of the championship. Under 10 minutes to go in the qualifying session now. No real changes up the top of the order since I last mentioned. And in fact, most of the about half of the drivers now are in the pits setting up for their second run, Ross.
They are indeed. Of course, private qualifying running here, as always, this season in GPVWC, and it looks like we're going to be carrying that regulation forward into the future as well. So if you're new to sim racing, new to rFactor 2, new to GPVWC, is basically every individual driver essentially has their own qualifying session, so you can't benefit off the slipstream, you can't benefit off of leaving it super late into the run because the track doesn't rubber in as much, and you can't get held up as well, which is also a big advantage for some people, because obviously we know how much qualifying can get. A lot of people can be out of position just because they're held up in traffic, especially in such a large field of 28 drivers. So it's just out there, you and the car, and what you can do. And here at Suzuka, well, the car very, very important. Of course, it is a very, very fast track, lots of medium high speed corners, but it's also a lot of driver skill needed to go in here. I said earlier, obviously it's one of the best tracks in the world, but it's also a very technical circuit, a real old school style of racetrack as well. So it's a lot of fun for the drivers, but it is hard to be fast around here as well. Every corner is so unique, and it's just a bit awkward as well. But of course, 2 races to look forward to here, and the second one being reverse grid. So if the drivers perhaps don't quite get the best qualifying, they can always try and bank that they'll get a decent result in the reverse grid race, or just make their way forward in the main race as well. There's so many opportunities here to do so much in Formula Sprint 1, the 3rd tier of GPVWC racing that we offer as Faber. Took a little bit too much curb through there, actually, I think, through 130R, and again coming through the Casio Triangle as well, really hurling that thing over the curbs, which are quite aggressive around here, but he might know something that we don't, so I won't judge as he crosses the line. Goes to P16, a pretty good run there for the number 33. Magorgi in the number 42, though. He's down in the first sector, but only marginally, and of course, look at that gap to Denahan. Under 200ths of a second, for it's 2/10 back to Stephen Lexau in P3. So it looks like it's going to be Magorgi against Denahan for the pole position at this phase in qualifying at the least. So it's all up in the air. 7 minutes and 24 seconds left on the clock. Can Denahan improve as he heads up into Spoon now in the middle sector? Very fast. It's not quite a double apex corner. You do have to wind the lockout just a little bit of a now. Flat out downhill. This is all how fast your car can go in a straight line over the bridge where the track crosses over. This figure 8 section through 130R. This is just a flat out flick nowadays, but still a very, very fast corner. Now Casio Triangle hard on the brakes. And, well, not saying whether he's up or not in the middle sector. And actually been told his lap's been invalidated. Stephen Lexo, though, purple in the middle sector. What can he do? Goes to pole with 800ths on Denahan. So a very nice lap there from Stephen Lexo.
And very close up the top. Both of the championship contenders today running with special liveries. You've got Nova Sim Racing running a Japanese-themed livery with all of these, I think it's kanji characters posted all over the side of the car. What is that supporting? I don't know. I cannot read
Anime.
Japanese characters, so I don't really know. Anime? Jolly good. Okay. And obviously I've already mentioned the Nocturne drivers running the Breast Cancer Awareness or the Cancer Research UK livery while out there on the circuit. Here's Stavros Musadis for Valley Esports completing a lap and staying 18th for the time being. Very close up the top of the times for now. We've got the top 4 drivers within a 10th of a second, sorry. We've got the top 13 drivers within a second. Singapore last time, the grid was unfortunately spread out in qualifying, so it's great to see them bunching back up with Suzuka's circuit, and I'm a little surprised about that actually, because Suzuka, being such a driver's track, is one that requires a lot of ability and can often shake up the field and really separate the drivers from the rookies, I suppose you could say. But anyway, obviously very evenly matched drivers at the top of the field. Lexo, Stevens, Denahan, Magorgi. That's both of the Novas, one Nocturne and one TCS off car. And we're heading now into the final 5 minutes of qualifying. A lot of drivers on out laps. Whoa, that's a slide for Vincent Gutt. Even more on in laps, I think, at this point in the session, because it's at about that point where they're going to start looking to set up for their final flying run. Of course, you can't change the setup at this point in the session, apart from fuel and putting new tyres on, and also you can tweak the brakes a little bit in terms of the brake balance and all of that. But still, it's ideal to come into the pits and start getting ready for your last flying lap at around this point. Magorki, meanwhile, fastest of anyone in the first sector. That's a true purple sector there. And I am lagging severely right now. I think I might be losing internet. Do you guys still hear me? Oh, I'm back. Jolly
yes, good. You're still here. Don't worry, Caitlin. All good in the commentary booth, so don't panic. Of course, if you need to take a little bit of a break, it's fine. I got here late anyway, so I'll allow it. But on board with Magorgi. purple first sector. And flying his way round through Spoon Curve he goes again. Not quite a double apex, but it's all named the one corner on the run to 130R. Let's go on board and see just how easy this is nowadays. You won't see any lift, you won't hear any lift on the throttle. Turn it in. These guys actually taking quite a lot of curb through 130R. Green middle sector still flying along. Comes through the Casio triangle now. Now it's all about just, can you get the traction down? Can you pivot the car around? And then to take the shortest run to line. Oh, that is an amazing lap from McGorgy to go to the pole. It's about 3/4 of a tenth faster than Lexal, but still 3 minutes left in qualifying. Plenty of time for things to change.
Now we're being told that Moritz Krob crashed out on circuit and was not able to set a flying lap, so he will start at least 27th, possibly lower than that, in the session. Mike Quint also yet to set a lap and may have had a similar fate. So Moritz Krob, I'm afraid, will start a long way down the order. It is a difficult circuit. Great lap from McGorgy, but it's only just ahead of Lexo. Whatever the case, Nova currently have 1-2 in the session, heading into the remaining 3 minutes. I'm being told as well, I've actually been taught something here. The characters on the Nova car are not kanji technically, they are katakana, I think. Thank you, Chris Williamson, for that. Kanji is Chinese characters used in Japanese writing. I did not know that, but I guess you learn something new every day. Anyway, back to the action. Here's Amari Watson. I think this is an outlap for... Nope, this is a timed flyer. Fast first sector, a little bit off the best of the session, although faster than his own personal best. Into the hairpin, kicking the tail out slightly. Oh, well, drifting on the exit. That may be the fastest line through there. It's a tricky one. Down into first gear. And when you put the pedal down and accelerate, the rear end sometimes kicks out a little, and it can be difficult to maintain control of the car. Spoon Curve there is probably the most difficult corner on the lap. Every time you have to be careful not to get hooked over the curb, and the curb there is like a rail slide in skateboarding. Not a great second sector by either his or the best laps personal standards. Very tight through 130R, interesting. Now into the Casio triangle, a little over the curves. He'll do well not to have that lap invalidated, and continues on to complete this flying lap, and does not improve on his best. Goes for one final sprint, which will be his final chance to the finish now.
Yeah, here he goes. Oh, Frank Hamming dropping the rear, coming through the first part of Spoon Curve. And that will be it for Frank Hamming, unless he has time to set another lap. Maybe, but those tyres are going to be warmer than my dinner. So I'm going to have to take that with a pinch of salt. Stavros Mercedes, 2 green sectors as he comes up the Casio triangle. Shortest run to the line goes to P11. Nice lap there from the valet driver, Vincent Gutt, as well. Looking to improve, 2 green sectors from him as well. Again, shortest run to the line out of the Casio triangle. He can only manage 17th, but again, another lap if the tyres aren't cooked. Federico Russo, that thing is sparking its way coming into the final sector. Makes its way through the Casio triangle now. Just plants it, hope the car sticks. Oh no, he dives into the pits. He was down quite significantly in the middle sector, actually loses it coming into the pits, but it's fine. The session is all but over, so he can teleport back and not worry about not having to go back out if I can get my English right. Oh, Tom Stevens through Degner 1. That was committed, wasn't it? That car is absolutely planted. Lovely to see it in that pink livery as well, of course, showing support, spreading awareness for breast cancer, which is such an important issue, and I'm really glad that Nocturne have decided to show up with this livery here at Suzuka. But unfortunately for Tom Stevens, it's not good through Sector 1, despite the commitment through the Degners. It was fast, but it was a little bit wide on the entry. Only yellow coming through the first sector. Checkered flag is now out pretty clean through Spoon Curve. Had to unwind a little bit of lock. Excuse me. Oh, I'm dying. Do excuse me.
That's okay, Ross. Stephen Lexo, Tom Stevens, and Jake Dennehan all on flying laps right now. Dennehan's actually bailed out of it, which is a shame because he was going quicker, so that would have been interesting. A lot of support for Stephen Lexo in the YouTube chat currently, but we've got to see what Tom Stevens does first. comes through the final sector, the final corner of the lap, comes across the line, and it's no improvement for Tom Stevens. It is an improvement, but doesn't go up in the order. Stephen Lexo stays second, and there may not be other drivers quick enough to beat that. Loic Mounier is still out there on a lap. He's inside the top 10, although a little way off the leaders. I think Mounier is potentially going to go into the top 5 on this one. Damien Kardash goes 6th here. Mounier, who won one of the Formula Sprint 2 races the other day, through the final corner and across the finish line, does go P5. Very nice from Loic there. And Owen McGorgy seals the deal by coming across the line and improving yet again to go an entire 10th of a second up. I say an entire 10th of a second, that's still not that much. But to go a 10th of a second up on his opponents. McGorgy is on pole. It's a Nova 1-2 with Stephen Lexer in second place. Stevens will be third, then Denahan and Mounier. There you see the order on your screen. Frank Hamming, P6, Damien Kardash, P7. Then Amari Watson, Darius Andre, and Menno Klont. Those are the top 10 in the order. We're still under a second now. Maciej Heiler, P11, then it's Stavros Muzeidis, Maurice Brackham, Mateusz Ziabinski, Federico Russo, Adrian Faber, Mirko Lucchini, Vincent Gutt, Alexander Ragosa, and Philip Koenig, the top 20. 28 cars here today, the others being Rafał Lukaszewski, Kasper Miklak, Noah Tuamela, Remco de Jeu, Perseus Miram, Kjeret de Vries, and then 2 drivers who unfortunately crashed before setting a flying lap, Moritz Kropp and Mike Quint, who will have to start from the back of the grid, Ross.
Yeah, shame there for Kropp and Quint, both of them having accidents out there, so a real shame for Moritz Kropp, and as well, and Tom Stevens out here fighting for a championship, and he's fighting for, in the fight for 4th place, 3rd place in the title race as well. So not a great start there for Moritz Kropp to his evening here at Suzuka. Oh, McGorgy, though, what an opportunity this is for him to close the gap up to Tom Stevens. He's on pole. Stevens directly behind him in 3rd. Of course, that's only for race 1, though. Race 2, of course, is a reverse grid. We pick a number out of a hat that's within a specific range on the grid. And whoever is finished race 1 and was in the position where the number is, they're on pole, and the grid gets reversed from there. So it's kind of like British touring cars in a sense. You got to roll with it. It's a bit different sometimes. I mean, there was was it last year where there was always one driver who seemed to wind up on pole position? It escapes me who it was, but I think
it was Damien Kardash. Yeah,
it was Damien Kardash. Yeah, but for some reason last year, Damien Kardash was just always on pole in the reverse grid. So sometimes it just lucks out for you. But well, we'll have to see what's going to happen here. 26 laps in race 1 for round 14/race 28 and 29 of the 2022 Formula Sprint 1 Championship here at GPVWC, the third tier in the GPVWC career pyramid, I think is the official term that we use. Hello and welcome if you're just joining us here at Suzuka as we head out for the warm-up. You've just missed a very exciting qualifying session, and one that could have huge implications for the championship as we get into crunch time in the seasons. Of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that wherever you're watching, and keep commenting away as well. I know Caitlin always keeps a keen eye on the comments. You can always DM us as well. You may have some information that we don't know. And well, if you fancy getting involved, this is your first time watching GPVWC and you're not really sure you want to find out more, then head up over to gpvwc.com. You can find out all of the information you need to know there. And you can also find the link to the series Discord, which is where we run all of our of the admin, really. But here we go, the cars out for the 10-minute warm-up session. So we've got 10 minutes just to sit back, relax. The drivers can make their final checks and balances, make sure the cars are absolutely A-OK, make sure their rigs at home are absolutely A-OK. And then, well, race 1, 5 red lights, we all know what that means.
Indeed. Now, it's about time we started talking about championship permutations. It's unlikely that Tom Stevens will wrap up the championship today, but it definitely could happen. If he is going to win the championship today, he needs to score 38 more points than Owen McGorgy and 40 more points than Jake Denahan. Those are the 2 closest drivers to him in the championship. Mathematically, there is still one more driver in contention, and that's Frank Hamming, although it would take a pig fly... I don't know where I'm going with that. It would take pigs flying to put Frank Hamming on the top step of the championship podium. He needs to score 4 more points than Tom Stevens, and also quite a few more points than McGorky and Denahan today to keep his hopes even mathematically alive, and chances are that is not going to happen. So Tom Stevens, 56 points ahead of Owen McGorky in the championship coming into this round. A huge margin, which means that he is already guaranteed to be leaving this round as the championship leader, no matter what happens. But he could leave as the overall champion if McGorky and Denahan both happen to have a really bad day. McGorky's second in the championship. He's just 2 points ahead of Jake Denahan now. Jake Denahan has been on the podium for the last 7 races, having a real uptick in performance. Frank Hamming, 4th in the standings. He's pretty much on his own, actually. He's got a big gap to the car in front and a big gap to the car behind. Moritz Kropp is 5th in the championship, although had a crash in qualifying and is vulnerable to Amari Watson, who scored his first victory at Singapore last time out. Darius Andre lost a few points at Singapore, having picked up a 10-second penalty after race 2, which cost him 2 positions. He's 7th in the championship. Alexander Ragosa is 8th in the championship. Damien Kardash is 9th. And then Jason Muscat rounds out the top 10 in the drivers' standings. Although he is still not here today, he's been replaced by Loic Mounier, the FS2 Race 2 winner from the other day. In terms of the team's championship, Nocturne is leading that by almost 100 points now, 95 points to be precise. It's still not wrapped up, but it's looking very good for Nocturne. TCS Off Racing, 2nd in those standings. HGP are 3rd, Nova Sim Racing 4th, and Gallery 82 are 5th. And actually, looking through the championship standings, one thing I've noticed from all of this, which I find particularly fascinating, is that even though Owen McGorky has consistently been on the podium and has consistently been at least the 2nd best driver out there, sometimes even the quickest, he actually hasn't won a race since round 3 of the championship in Australia. So, Ross, do you think Owen is potentially overdue a win, especially with his pole today?
I think so. I mean, we know that Owen is a fantastic driver. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work that out. You just look at his achievements in GPVWC in the past. I mean, you just have to watch a race with him in it just to see what he can do in a virtual car. But it's been a bit of a while, as you said, since Australia, but he's just been so consistent. While Tom Stevens has been racking up the wins, you know, there was a few results that did hurt him. You know, you look at the 18th round 2, or race 2 rather, at Silverstone, while McGorky finished 2nd on the podium. I think that really hurt him. But then again, race 1 at Singapore, McGorky again finishing 18th. So it all depends really. You know, the championship's just, it's more about luck at this point than anything, it would seem. You've just got to hope the other driver has a rough race. And don't forget Jake Denahan as well. Denahan's still in that championship fight mathematically. He's only 2 points behind McGorky. So, you know, and he's been probably the best driver of the last couple of rounds, taking the most wins and the best results. 2 first places at Italy race 1 and Singapore race 1, and a consecutive podium streak since race 2 at Hungary a few rounds ago. So he's been doing very strongly, to say the least. But I think McGorky is overdue a win. He's sitting in a very strong position right now, going from that pole. We know that he likes it around here at Suzuka. We know the car's fast. We know he's fast. So it all just depends what he can do away from the lights, really. I mean, again, there's a few very fast starters, a few very strong drivers behind him on the grid. And again, you know, lap 1, it's all about, you know, just staying on the track in a sim race more than anything, making it through turn 1, making it through the opening couple of corners. I mean, the S is here. It's first race in virtual motorsport. You know, first laps are usually carnage, to put it politely, though to be fair, this season I've been very impressed by the driving standards on lap 1, which I think goes to show the quality of all of the championships here. As I say, that's a big crash there for a few of the drivers. Of course, this is just a warm-up, so nothing to worry about. I think I did see one of the Multiforce drivers off there. I'm not sure who the other one was, but it's you know, it's all about just trying to survive the first lap and then letting the race run its course. And again, one thing you've got to consider as well, your qualifying pace may be very different from your race pace.
Hello to everyone in the YouTube chat. Good to see you all watching along as always. A lot of support I'm seeing here to Stephen Lexo and the Multiforce team. Support coming in from Josh Downard, Ruben Machete, Alex Laho, yeah,
completely
plenty of
unbiased
people.
YouTube chat this weekend. Or even
Plenty. It does seem that Stephen Lexo is by far the favourite of the YouTube chat this weekend. I'm not sure that he's going to be allowed to overtake Owen McGorky in this one, but if he can bring home a Nova 1-2, then I'm sure that will feel like a win in and of itself. Hello to Craig there. Craig also saying go Nova, so another Nova fan there. That's the fourth that I can see, and there's only been about 5 commenters. Szymon Frelik remaining unbiased, it seems. Carter McColeman, of course, not counting you, Carter. I know you're going to be cheering on your own drivers in this one, and fair enough indeed. So, yes, leave your predictions if you'd like in the YouTube comments. It's always fun to come back to. And we got another message here. Yeetus Mimita saying, come on Nova. So yet another Nova supporter. Sorry, what I was saying before, always fun to come back to predictions and things like that to see if they've aged like wine or like milk, and of course anything else you would like to go. My goodness, we've got another Stephen supporter here, Thyda, or Thai, Thy, Thai. Lucas Stylen. Okay, sorry, I don't think I've seen your YouTube channel before, Lucas. Ruben Machete saying go Steven. Goodness me, this is like a chant to the gladiator arena.
Yeah.
Squid Flipper saying go Spark Racing. Who have Spark Racing got? That's in FS2, yeah, I was gonna say.
Wrong championship, mate.
Right?
Oh, hello. Someone's going the wrong way.
Well, like you said, at least it's warm-up. That's one of the small cars having an accident.
Yeah, no, luckily it's the warm-up session, so having an accident doesn't matter, as another car running very well as well. It's more about just pushing the limits in this session, to be honest, for a lot of drivers. A lot of drivers just like to take it completely crazy and over the top and just see what they can do out on there, and there's a few spectacular crashes very often. But again, in the warm-up, it doesn't really matter, because you are allowed to escape back to the pits, or go on. That is some tight racing for a warm-up session heading into 130R. But yeah. Again, if you're new to GPVWC, you may not be too familiar with the rules and different sessions. In qualifying in the race, if you hit escape back to the pit, so if you hit the escape key on your keyboard, and R factor 2, in qualifying in the race here in GPVWC, that teleports you back to your pit box. That is classified as a DNF in qualifying on the race, so you're not allowed to head back out. But in the warm-up, that rule does not apply, so you're allowed to smash your car into a million pieces. Hit escape, you get an immediate repair. Of course, you don't have to pay the millions of dollars that you'd have to pay in crash damage, because it's a sim race, and you can head straight back out again as there's just a car sat on the grass on the entrance into Spoon. I wouldn't go parking on a racetrack. It's not like you're on a school run. There are guys out there doing, over 180 miles an hour, approaching 300 kilometers an hour. So, not ideal just to leave it parked there, and quite a dangerous part of the circuit as well. But whatever you want to do, go straight ahead. 30 seconds left in the warm-up session then. So, get your predictions in. Who do you think is going to be on top? Omagorgi, as we were talking about earlier. Long overdue a win, it would seem, but he's got some very fast drivers alongside him. We've got some real support for Stephen Lexau in the chat as well. Definitely no bias here whatsoever. Some of the drivers just doing practice starts here, which again, you are allowed to do that in the warm-up session. So that's nothing illegal there. As well, that's one way to do it, I suppose. Omagorgi gets punted out of the way. Well, there you go. Checkered flag's out. That's Philip Koenig. He has been sideways this entire session. And as I say that, he's about to nose it into the Arco. No, actually does a good job to keep it out. But again, checkered flag. Now it's time to put your racing heads on. Get safe. Right. Okay. This is one of the more chaotic warm-up sessions that we've had in a while. I'll say that much.
And if anyone was interested, the fastest driver in that warm-up session was Frank Hamming by 0.4 of a second, actually. Very good session for Frank, although this session very rarely representative of anything. And I say that considering I was fastest in warm-up for race 2 in FS2 the other day. So anyway, take that as you will. Anyway, the race about to get going. The checkered flag out on this session. I think Hamming might be about to improve his lap again, actually, while we're waiting for the start of the race. He does. He goes even quicker. So Frank, the only driver seemingly absolutely flying out there right now. maybe has some race pace to show in that vehicle. There's only one way to find out really, and that's just to wait and see. We have a 26 lap race coming up in just a few minutes. It should take maybe 50 or so minutes, and they're going to use 2 dry tyre compounds. The top 10 drivers are going to start on the tyre compound that they qualified on, so presumably the softest tyre for all of them. Every driver behind that gets a free tyre choice, and we often see the drivers in 11th and 12th place starting on the harder compound of tyre, just to take advantage of it, get it out of the way, go on an alternate strategy and be the top car doing so. But of course, they absolutely don't have to. They can start on softs like the others and go with the leaders if they wish to. We're now in the race session, so in 45 seconds, all of the drivers must be on the starting grid. Those who aren't miss out, but I'm sure that they all will be. And then we will head away for the formation lap before this 26 lap race, Ross.
Absolutely. Again, strategy absolutely crucial in this race. Race 2, no mandatory pit stop, so you'll be typically seeing just the drivers running the hards to the end of the 18 laps. But in this race, not only is the pit stop mandatory, but you have to take one because your tyres won't make it. So you have to wait and see. And of course, you want to finish strong as well, but you've got to bear in mind there's a reverse grid coming your way. So as someone's already rolling out of the pit box there. No, just the game having a moment. Let's go another way for the formation lap, shall we? As we get going, one sighting lap for the drivers so they can get the tyres, get the brakes in the temperature zone, make sure the engine's cool before it's the 5 red lights. And away we go. So, sat on the pole then, the man who is long overdue a win. It is Omar Gorgie with an over 1-2. Stephen Lexo with huge support from the chat in P2. Tom Stevens, championship leader, starts third with Jake Denahan, who's been looking fast in the last couple of rounds. He starts P4. Loic Mournier is P5 with Frank Howing fastest in warm-up P6. Damien Kardash for Gallery 82 is 7th. And Amari Watson lines up in P8. The top 10 rounded out by Darius Andre and Menno Klant for TCS Off and Multiforce, with row 6 of the grid being made up by Masic Hyla and Stavros Mazadis for Valet Esports in the number 10. Good qualifying for him there, with Maurice Bracken in P13 and Mateusz Sabinski in 14th. Federico Russo, he starts in 15th, and Adrian Faber, he starts 16th in the 33. 17th is Mirko Lucchini, 18th is Vincent Gart with Alexander Ragozza, the other Gallery 82 car, he starts P19th, with Philip Koenig starting in P20 after spending most of warm-up sideways. Rafael Lukaszewski starts P21 with Kasper Michalak in P22. Noah Tomola is P23 with Remco de Joux in P24 for Friesland Racing Team. 25th is Perjus Miram, 26th is Gerard de Vries, and rounding out the grid, Moritz Kropp and Mike Quint both crashing in qualifying. They'll be starting from the back. Moritz Kropp, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to stay involved in that fight for P3 in the championship.
And it looks like 2 drivers have elected to start from the pits, and it's both of the Alpha Delta cars. So Mirko Lucchini and Mike Quint both electing to start from the pit lane here, whether by choice or not. But it may be by choice. This is a difficult circuit to overtake on, a difficult circuit to start on. And of course, at the start, drivers may get desperate as a result of that and get a little over-ambitious. Possibly, we could see some accidents. There are the starting tyres. That's bizarre. It looks as if pretty much everyone has gone for softs, and you very rarely see that. Normally, you get alternate strategies further down the order. Only 2 drivers have gone for an alternate strategy here: Rafał Lukaszewski and Moritz Kropp. Of course, we're yet to see what the Alpha Delta guys go for because they are both in the pit lane there. You see the 2 identically liveried cars. Talking of identically liveried cars, the Katakana liveried Nova Sim Racing cars are going to be starting alongside each other on the front row of the grid. Owen McGorky is on driver's left, your right of the screen there. Stephen Lexo is on driver's right and your left. Also look for the bright pink Tom Stevens Nocturne behind, and then Jake Denahan in 4th place. The lights coming on now, and when they go out, we'll be underway for 26 laps of Suzuka, and we are, so off we go. Owen McGorky gets the power down, and he's already clear of Lexo, and here comes Tom Stevens to the outside. So Stevens is going to be outside of Stephen Lexo into turn 1. and Lexo has the better drive, and they lock wheels slightly. Oh, that was close. They've made it through, and Stevens gets up to P2. So Stevens splits the two Nova cars with a brave move, continuing on despite a little bit of contact. Mounier is up into 5th place. Great start from Loic Mounier, and he maintains that 5th position. And the rest of the field streams through. It looks as if we've had a clean start for the top 26 at least. 2 cars coming out of the pit lane, the 2 Alpha Deltas. And the order similar to what it was at the start, but with Tom Stevens now separating the 2 Novas, Ross.
Yeah, pretty clean start there, but Tom Stevens exactly what he needed, sliding through Stephen Lexo on the run into the S's. And now he can put chase to Omar Gorgi, who has broken a little bit of a gap as Loic Mounier there, fighting with Denhan up the inside, but he'll have the outside into Spoon Curve, so he needs to get to the brake lane, and that's Darius Andre, I think, or Damien, or is it, no, Frank Hamming perhaps, trying to have a look to the outside. Loic Mounier, though, having to concede the place to Jake Denhan. It's McGorgy who leads from Stephen from Lexo, your top 3, and look at that gap that Stevens has. Or McGorgy has rather. Stevens will be within the DRS, and look at that, Denhan absolutely flying already, looking to the inside and getting the move done, coming through the Casio triangle. So Denhan once again race pace on point early on. We complete lap 1. It's McGorgy from Stevens from Denhan now your top 3.
And a spin further back, Perseus Miram has gone around, and so has Noah Tuamela there. So a spin for those 2, but they have continued in this race, and I'm pleased to report that every single driver and very nearly every single wing has completed the first lap, although Perseus Miram has actually just driven it into the wall trying to complete lap 1 there, and is going to have to come into the pits. Philip Koenig now doesn't lose a front wing, but he's involved in a little shunt there. Someone else lost their front wing in turn 1. Koenig resumes, and that's one of the Smile Power cars in trouble, I think, and that will be Kasper Michalak. It looks as if Koenig lost control while fighting with Federico Russo, and Michalak had nowhere to go. Here's a replay of something. This is the Jake Denhan attack. He's going to go to the inside of Stephen Lexo and take 3rd position going into the Casio triangle. So Jake Denhan now forcing Stephen Lexo off the top 3. Lexo not having the ideal first lap there. Here's Philip Koenig. He tried to go to the inside of a couple of battling cars in front of him, tagged Federico Russo, and Michalak had nowhere to go, which is what caused that incident, and another car spun off to the inside. Owen McGorgy still leading, now getting a 1.5 seconds away from Tom Stevens, so he's clear of DRS range when DRS is active next lap. Jake Denhan is P3, then it's Stephen Lexo and Loic Mounier. So Mounier did manage to hold off Frank Hamming. And then it's Kardash, Andre Watson and Clant. Gerrit de Vries appears to have retired from this race, I'm afraid. He was the driver who spun off to the inside after all of that. Into the pits comes Philip Koenig, Perseus Miram. He's actually exiting the pits now, so he's maintained, he stayed in the race, although a lap down. And here, down into turn 1, Faber goes side by side with Maciej Heiler, all 3 wide, and that was never going to work. 3 cars going off now, Stavros Muzeidis involved with them, and a big kerfuffle there involving several drivers on the second part to turn 1. Muzeidis having to reverse to get back onto the road, and he resumes the race, although unfortunately all 3 drivers very heavily affected, and Lukashevsky's actually going for another spin now. He's had a collision with Mike Quint, and both of them are heavily into the wall as we watch a replay of the first incident, but I'm afraid it looks as if at least Mike Quint is going to be out of the race, and I think Lukashevsky is going to struggle to make it back to the pits as well. There was the initial contact. There are 2 cars spinning right off into the gravel. And then when they resumed, the accidents weren't over yet, I'm afraid to say. McGorgy now leads this race by 3 seconds, so an amazing start from Owen McGorgy. And not only has he taken the lead in the early stages, but he's getting away from Tom Stevens at quite a rapid rate of knots. So he's now, it's 2.5 seconds on the straight now, but in the corners at least, he's about 3 seconds ahead of Tom Stevens' car, and Denhan is now a lot closer to Stevens. He's in DRS range, and Stevens does not have the DRS of McGorgy, so he may be vulnerable. There is only 1 DRS range on this circuit though, 1 DRS zone on this circuit. That's the one down to turn 1. It's not a great overtaking opportunity because turn one's so fast. But if you can get a good exit to the Casio triangle, you can still make an overtake with the slingshot effect. There you see the order and the times on the right-hand side of the screen there. And you can see that Omagorki is really beginning to get away from Tom Stevens. He's very nearly going to have a comfortable buffer.
Well, one thing to consider though, maybe McGorgy is pushing hard early on in these tyres and Stevens trying to save them, trying to go longer into this opening stint so he has the pace later on. But it could be that McGorgy just has the pace, we simply don't know with the tyres, especially this early on. So have to wait and see for when the pit stop windows come around. But Dennehan and McGorgy look like the drivers with the pace at the moment. I mean, McGorgy in with that 2.5 second lead, and Dennehan with a flying start, looking to challenge Tom Stevens for second place. On board then with Loic Moynier, Lexo, and these guys actually not too far away from each other. And Kardash is not far away from Moynier either. Yellow flag out in sector 2, and Moynier was thinking about having a look on Lexo into Spoon Curve. That would be brave, to say the least. But the Multiforce driver looking fast this evening here at Suzuka. And as they on the run up to 130R again, no DRS up here. Due to the fact that, well, actually, with the modern cars, you'd probably hold the grip through here, actually, but just for safety reasons more than anything. The flick through 130, a bit of a wobble on the brakes into the Casio triangle, really hammer that inside curve. That's been the order today, to just absolutely smash the inside curve at the Casio triangle. You're at virtual suspension and virtual spinal column be damned. On the run down to turn 1 now, still on forward with Moynier, not going to be close enough to make a move, but Damien Kardash getting closer as well, so it could be that Moynier actually being held up by Lexal here, because look at that, Frank Hamming not far off the back of Kardash either, so perhaps Stephen Lexal, the 77, being a cork in a bottle, as that is Tamela looking around for Dejoux up the inside. Oh, that's tight. Dejoux slams the door. Tamela still tries to hold it there, but can't quite make the move appear, but that was brave, and that shows the Smile Power Racing driver has the pace and is looking to move forward. Here we've got a replay. I assume that's message Heiler.
This is going to be a big crash for Heiler. Watch this. Gets over the curb and into the barriers backwards. He loses the rear wheel and unfortunately is out of the race. I also have another retirement to report. Mike Quint is out after an incident of his own. That was the incident with Lukashevsky and that bunch of cars that unfortunately resulted in his retirement. And here at Frelik, of course, he retired on the first lap of the race, the second lap of the race, and that was, when I watched that back, he had a big spin at the Spoon Curve and elected to go no further. So a big crash, unfortunately, there for Maciej Heiler. He had been running in 20th position. 25 cars remain, 24 of them on the lead lap. And I'm afraid it looks as if Vincent Gutt might struggle to complete this lap because he's just had a shunt of his own. There you see him missing his front and rear wings. And that's happened somewhere out on the circuit. But yes, after a pretty much clean first lap, where only one driver was forced to come into the pits with a missing wing, we have had quite a few incidents since then, and a few collisions as well. Vincent Gutt just repeated the Maciej Heiler incident, I'm afraid to say. Luckily didn't hit the wall quite as bad in terms of the angle that he walloped it at, and as a result has been able to drive it back to the pits, but he is pretty much out of the contention for points here. It's still worth continuing though, because where you finish in race 1 determines where you start for race 2. So if you continue in the race and you beat the drivers who will DNF later down the line, that at least gives you, and here is the collision with the wall.
Drops on the curb again.
It's just like Heiler, although luckily not quite as bad an angle. But yes, if you continue, it is a beneficial thing to do for your race 2 at least. And that's why I always say props to those who complete the race. Vincent Gutt in the pits now, and more yellow flags. Hopefully everyone's been aware of that inside curb coming out from under the bridge. I think Remco Dejoux is the latest victim, and that was at the second Degner, so he now retires from this race, having been into the wall there.
Yeah, it looks like Degner too. The exit curb just causing calamity out there. Not really sure what's happening, but a lot of drivers just getting caught out, maybe just either riding the curb a little bit or just the Astro being a bit slippy. Like Moynier still trying to get past Lexo, and look at that, Dennehan is right on the back of Stevens, but gets a huge drift going coming out of the final corner, so he's going to need a big run We know that Dennehan likes a car that moves around, but I don't think he's going to be close enough as a result of that slide. And look at that front right tyre. That thing was already looking dodgy on lap 7 and 26. I think Stevens is definitely preserving his tyres. I think he's trying to go long into this opening stint. So let's have a replay here, maybe, of
yeah,
what?
So this is Remco de Gieu's crash here. You can see the difference between his crash and Hyland's is that he gets on the curb on the entry to Degner 2 and goes into the wall backwards. With Hyland's crash, it was the exit of Degner 2, and that's also what caught out, who was it? It was Vincent Gutt a couple of laps ago. So 4 retirements from this race now, 24 cars remaining with 23 of them on the lead lap. Vincent Gutt has just about maintained the lead lap of the race, although he is about to be lapped, not too far down the line. Back to the front, still a little scrap going on between, actually there's a big DRS train from second all the way back here, and Tom Stevens, a little bit of a cork in the bottle as Owen McGorgy, still about 2.5 seconds ahead of him, possibly a little more at some parts of this circuit. The trouble is that Suzuka is a very difficult circuit to overtake at. This is one of the longest straights we're on right now, but there is no heavy braking zone. You have a fast left-hander at 130R, which sometimes separates the car, and then you get a heavy braking zone. But even here, it's a chicane, and if your opponent holds on, they can just take you back at the second corner of that chicane there. And then you have another straight to contend with, but again, not a very hard braking zone at the end of this one, so it's not the ideal layout for overtaking. It does encourage creativity, and it encourages you to set up and overtake several corners in advance, but even then it's tricky.
Oh,
and that's Noah Tuomela, who appears to have lost both front and rear wing.
That's coming out of 130R.
And I think he's potentially hit the wall in 130R. It's an unusual place to hit the barriers. 130R, not a particularly difficult corner, gets over the curves. Whoa, hits the wall very hard there, actually. That reminds me of Jaime Alguersuari's crash back in 2009, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
And he was actually side by side with Moritz Kropp there, tried to go too wide into 130R. And that's what I'm saying, 130R, when you're going through it by yourself, it's not a particularly difficult corner. It's just that if something bad happens to you in that corner, then you are guaranteed to have a very nasty one. So crashes there are rare, but they're also memorable because they tend to be big. I'm afraid he has now retired from this race, so we have 23 cars remaining now, with 22 of them on the lead lap. Noah Tuomela, our latest retirement as a result of the incident that you just saw out there. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens did gain a little on McGorgy that last time around. He's back to about 2 seconds behind as opposed to 2.5 seconds, and actually getting a little away from Jake Dennehan on that lap as well. So it looks as if that was just a pretty good lap from Tom Stevens. And there was a move there, and Darius Andre has got Frank Hamming. So Andre up into 6th place now. He went to the inside of the Casio Triangle and made it work. Now watch them getting close on the exit, going down to turn 1, and ahead of them as well. Look, Mounier to the outside of Damien Kardash. Kardash wins that fight, and Andre stays ahead of Frank Hamming now. And sorry, that's over 7th position. So Kardash is up into 6th, and there's going to be contact with Mounier, and off the road goes Kardash, and into the wall hard. So Kardash was hung out to dry and slammed the barriers with his front and rear. I'm not sure there was slight contact with Mounier. It was close, but they did touch, and Kardash was caught out and hit the wall hard backwards.
Yeah, just unlucky there. Going on board with Darius Andre, that was the move up the inside of Loic Mounier. So
Kardash had already made the move on Mounier there. So I was watching Andre and Hamming, but I should have been watching Mounier and Kardash up ahead of them. Lexo still running okay. And it was in the S's that those two made a little bit of contact. I'm afraid, quite an instant.
It's just a racing incident.
I'm afraid. Goodness.
Yeah, just a racing instant. That Kardash just ran a little bit wide. I think Mounier could have maybe given him a bit more room on the inside, but very 50-50. And unfortunately, Demi Kardash. I mean, the joys of sim racing is you can utterly destroy your car and still just about haul it back to the pits and get it immediately repaired. In real life, that would obviously be an immediate DNF. And again, when I said that Suzuka's a classic style circuit, it also means the walls are very, very close to the track. If you get caught in an instant, if you make a mistake, there's not much runoff. You're going to meet a wall very quickly, and that's what we've been seeing time and time again tonight already. It's only lap 10 of race 1. Still very early on into the night racing as there goes Andre on Loic Mournier up the inside. Nice and textbook with the DRS down into turn 1. Easy as you like.
So Darius now up into P5 in this race. A driver who's scored points quite consistently recently. He got into a little bit of hot water earlier this season. He was banned for one race weekend, but returned and has been doing pretty well since then. There was a yellow flag out there somewhere. That was just Damien Cardassero trying to get back to the pits. Unfortunately, he appears to now be on 3 wheels, so he's continued to bounce off the walls after having that incident earlier on. Unfortunately, not coming back to the pits anywhere near slow enough, and that was in 130R that he hit the wall. He's going to be lucky to get this car repaired enough to continue in this race, and if he does, then mad props to him, because you don't normally see cars returning to the pits on 3 wheels. Actually, I did see that happen at this circuit a few years ago. I remember it was the WCS League when they were racing A1 GP cars, and a guy by the name of Wopke Hoekstra, who used to race in GPVWC quite a lot, hit the wall and returned to the pits on 3 wheels, and he ended up completing the race and setting the fastest lap. So it obviously didn't affect his car that much. Obviously that was after he'd put another wheel on the thing. But anyway, always good to see drivers limping the car back in whatever shape they can. Like Mounier now right back on the tail of Darius Andre's car. They're coming through the final corner of this particular lap, and Andre will be under pressure here because Mounier has the DRS and the slipstream. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens continuing to gain on Owen McGorgy. His last lap even better, and this time Mounier not fast enough to pass Darius Andre, and Andre's lost it. Andre spins. It's going to be a good save, so he does save it, but he's lost 2 positions in that one. It looks as if he was a little wide coming into the corner, possibly just a little too quick. Here's a replay of what happened, and that has now cost him the position to not just Mounier but Hamming as well. Here we go on board with Andre. He slightly misses the apex for turn 1, doesn't clip the curb or anything. It's just that he was a little over ambitious and the rear end came around. But I mean, it wasn't like he did anything silly there. That was a relatively normal line into the corner. It's just that turn 1 is so difficult. You're braking, you're steering, you're carrying a lot of energy. The momentum wants the car to continue, and that's why he ended up spinning around. But anyway, Darius Andre, good save, still running in P7, could have looped it and dropped even further down.
Yeah, good save there from Darius Andre. Managed to keep it pointing in the right direction and didn't run onto the grass, which is the crucial thing. Again, if you touch the grass here, it's not far into the wall. Turn 1, of course, has a lot of runoff, but so perhaps the best place to lose the car and run it slightly wide, but on board with Stephen Lexau now, chasing down Jake Danner. Look at the gap that Tom Stevens has bridged to Owen McGorgy. I think I was right with him trying to conserve his tyres, because McGorgy has, well, Stevens rather, has massively started to push, and Denahan dives in. That is the first of the front runners, and McGorgy in as well. So there you go, McGorgy and Denahan in.
I'm afraid Philip Koenig has just become the latest retirement of the race. He pitted very recently and appears to have DNF'd now, but yes, indeed, we do have a few front runners into the pits. Koenig had a spin in the S's and decided to abandon ship. So we now have 22 cars remaining in this race. McGorky rejoining in a little bit of traffic that he's probably going to catch in a little bit of time. And Tom Stevens knows that this is his chance. He's got to really, really push in these next couple of laps now to try to use this to his advantage, to gain time on McGorky while McGorky is stuck in traffic. And Stevens needs to be really quick here because he is on much older tyres and could be at a theoretical disadvantage. The car ahead of McGorky is Mirko Lucchini, who started from the pit lane and has been doing pretty well ever since. And behind him, Jake Denahan exits the pits about 3 seconds back and will potentially gain on him here while McGorky has to overtake the car in front. Important times in this race. Stevens and Lexo will have to keep an eye on them and see if they respond to that soon, because there's always a chance that they'll see it happening and realise that they've got to pit soon to avoid being left behind in the strategy race. Tom Stevens is in the Casio triangle right now, and if he is to come into the pits, he'll pull to the right. He stays out yet again, so he stays out. He's going to use that clean air to his advantage. And Lexo, Mounier, Hamming are all in behind him. So second, third and fourth all come into the pits now. And here's McGorgy going for the move on Lucchini. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, but not as much as if he'd failed to make the move. Goes through, and the car ahead of him, Federico Russo, also pulls into the pits now. McGorgy defends. He defends from the car behind, does not want Lucchini coming back through again. And into turn one, he goes ahead of Lexo. Denahan comes out ahead of Lexo as well. So Denahan maintains that position. Stephen Lexo also keeps ahead of Loic Meunier. No changes in that order there. Frank Hamming comes out just behind Loic Meunier as well. Those two were battling before the pit stages. I think the important thing here is going to be where Tom Stevens comes out once he's made his stop, Ross.
Yeah, so Tom Stevens could very well be pulling off the overcut here. I said he was trying to save his tyres. He saved them, and now is his chance to push. So we'll have to see how long he stays out as his fellow driver, should I say, McGorgy and Denahan get stuck in traffic. Lap 13 and 26 here, about to hit the halfway. No, we are at the halfway point, rather, should I say. And Menoclon looking for a way past Jabinski in the Multiforce car. The number 11 looks like if he gets a good exit from the Casio Triangle, he's very close behind, could get a strong run down into turn one with the DRS. But of course, I mean, if he gets the move done, the DRS detection zone as running wide goes Zabinski. It is actually after the chicane. Decides to stay behind and use that DRS. There's Tom Stevens in, leader in. Okay, this is it. This is crunch time. Darius Andre dives in from P2 as well.
And Zabinski and Clont.
Where do they all come out is the big question. Watch for Tom Stevens. Pretty good stop there.
Faber. So everyone who separated Stevens from McGorgy is in the pits this lap.
McGorgy's going to do it.
Stevens exiting. McGorgy's going to be well clear. So Tom Stevens loses the lead of the race.
As well. Second rather.
Sorry, no, that's Mirko Lucchini. So keep your eye on James Denahan. Denahan stays behind, so Tom Stevens maintains net second place, although he's definitely lost time to McGorgy and a significant amount of time as well. McGorgy, in being quick to pass Lucchini, has been able to extend his lead in this race, and now he has a car between him and Tom Stevens. Lucchini has stayed out for another lap. He's the top driver on a strategy that hasn't required him to stop yet. There he is on your screen. One of just a couple of drivers who started the race on the harder compound of tyre, and he's going to have to be passed by Stevens soon, which is going to cost Tom Stevens yet more time. Stevens lost about 2 seconds, which isn't a disaster. The race is definitely still on with 12 laps remaining, but it is going to delay the battle for a little while, if indeed Stevens is going to be able to catch up to McGorgy in the latter stages. We're over half the way through now. Lucchini's just run wide, so that's going to catalyse this overtake. Tom Stevens is going to be closer than he expected, heading down to 130R. Can he get through before the dangerous corner? This is tricky. Going side by side into 130R is not what the doctor ordered, so he bails out of it. And into the Casio Triangle is not able to pull an Omagorgi style move. He goes to the other side and bails out of that as well. Lucchini will once again, he will pit. So Lucchini comes in, gets out of the way, but this has left Tom Stevens vulnerable to Jake Denahan. Stevens does have the DRS, but Denahan will have the slipstream and the DRS. Goes to the outside line into turn one. Will he sweep around? He goes around the outside, and Kimi Räikkönen style, not quite, does not able to pass Tom Stevens for P2 in this race. Stevens stays ahead, and Stephen Lexo behind, also not able to benefit. So McGorgy now leads by 4.5 seconds ahead of Stevens, who's just ahead of Denahan and Lexo. They have a bit of a gap now down to Hamming, and the rest of the top 10, you've got Meunier, you've got Andre, then Watson, Kropp, Clont, Ziabinski, Ragosa. I've gone past the top 10, but anyway, Bracan, Russo and Faber are the remaining points runners in this race. The leaderboard not really updating itself for a while there in terms of the time. Seems to be updating itself by sector, but that is okay. And yes, indeed, you have the battle for P2 really hotting up on that last lap. And could that be a real missed opportunity for Jake Denahan? He's not going to have a car fighting that hard with Tom Stevens, holding him up for the foreseeable future, or at least hopefully not, because the rest of the cars out there that they're likely to meet soon are backmarkers. So I think that might have been a bit of a missed opportunity for Tom Stevens, for Jake Dennehan, sorry. Will he get another chance in the foreseeable future, Russ?
Well, he will have the DRS coming down the main straight, but I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move. I'm still got my eye on Tom Stevens, though, in this one. I mean, again, he only pitted a few laps later than Dennehan and McGorgy. But, you know, we saw in the first stint, as the tyres got on, he was the fastest driver out of the front runners, able to go a few laps longer as well when the tyre wear started to come in. So late in the race, it could be all about Tom Stevens, but McGorgy's got a very comfortable gap right now, 4.5 seconds at the line, and Dennehan not able to capitalise that time and actually losing time through the S's as well, and could be potentially under attack from Stephen Lexo if he's not careful. So it's all up in the air with 11 laps left remaining as they head through the Degnares. So yeah, it's all about Tom Stevens for me. I think McGorgy, he's running a slightly lower downforce setup judging by the splits. He's a little bit faster through the final sector where it's all about just straight line speed coming through 130R and down the main straight, but in the middle sectors, Stevens is gaining and he's actually slowly but surely chipping away at McGorgy's gap. It was 4.7 seconds this time around last lap. Now it's 4.3, and we'll see in a minute what the time is and see if it's any closer. But it's very, very interesting indeed. Stevens may be slightly faster at this phase in the race, and we've seen as the stints wear on, he looks to be the quicker driver on the worn tyres. Maybe that high downforce setup, or higher downforce setup, helping him, should I say. And again, look at that, 4.1 seconds. So Stevens is certainly moving faster than McGorgy at this phase in the race, but we're about to come on to 10 laps remaining. There we go. We wait for the time. And McGorgy is in sight of Stevens. Again, yeah, Stevens just dropping a little bit of time through the final sector, but still chipping away. Lexo now looking to move around the outside of Dennehan. Dennehan tried this, didn't achieve it. Can Lexo? Oh, he gets so... Can he catch it? No. Can he keep it out of the barrier? Yes, a half spin. Stephen Lexo manages to keep it on the grey stuff, but he's dropped a few positions, and that is a real shame for him. And he's shown a lot of pace this weekend, but he's still running. That is the main thing.
And Darius Andre sitting behind him, watching it like I did that, running in 7th position into the pits. There's Moritz Kropp after a long first stint, trying to make his way up the order. It's not been going particularly well for Moritz so far. I'm afraid he's being quite anonymous, despite the fact we know he's very quick. This is one of the last tracks, as you see a replay there of Lexo. He did clip the curb, unlike what Andre did, which is why he struggled even more to get it under control, but even so, it looked as if he still had it under control at that point, and it was as he turned in for the second apex that the car started to lose it. But yeah, Moritz Kropp, I'm afraid, still a little anonymous in this race, despite how quick we know he is. This is one of the worst tracks to have an incident in qualifying at, possibly even topped only by Monaco, and maybe the Hungaroring as well. But anyway, there's Loic Meunier. At this point in the race, the fastest lap is held by Frank Hamming, who's in 4th position. Did Hamming pass Meunier on that last lap? I thought he was behind him. But yes, Hamming, fastest lap of everyone in this race so far. And I would say that's useful in keeping his championship alive, although realistically, of course, it's much more likely that he's going to be in the fight for 2nd in the championship. Of course, they all gained a place on that last lap because Stephen Lexo had his issue, dropped behind both Hamming and Meunier there. So that's why Hamming's 1 place higher than I thought he was. Not too far off Jake Dennehan as well, so if he keeps pushing like this, could be right up there with one of his closest championship rivals. Still has a lot of ground to gain if he's going to get in that scrap for P2 in the standings, especially considering Jake Dennehan has the most championship momentum of any of the drivers out there right now. He's on the back of him though, definitely has a chance today. Loic Meunier trying to come with him, very impressive performance so far from him. He finished in the points in both races that he ran at Singapore in FS1, which was his first outing in FS1 this year. And now heading up towards 130R once again. Sorry, Russ.
No, it's no worries. It looks to me like Dennehan's just struggling a little bit on this medium stint. I mean, you've got Stevens who's absolutely flying, but, you know, again, it all depends what his tyre wear is like. You know, does he have enough laps in the race to get onto McGorgy and then to pass him as well for the win. But Denahan just on these mediums just looks like he hasn't quite got the pace he had in the opening stint. So Frank Hamming, like Moynier, in some very good positions here. They won't have the DRS. Well, they will have the DRS rather, but won't be close enough. But it's interesting to see Denahan struggling like that. We're not used to seeing Denahan being the hunted. He's usually very much the hunter, and usually, you know, really always fighting for the win. But yeah, in this second stint, he's going to have to try and hold on to third place, unless, of course, some travesty befalls the front pair. Hasn't, well, he did, of course, take a couple of race wins in the last few rounds, and he's consistently been on the podium, so I'm sure he'd love to continue that podium streak, but it's not been a great race for him in this second phase of the race. When he was fast in the opening stint, but now he just seems to be struggling. Losing time to Hamming, losing time to Stevens as well. 3 seconds back now from the championship leader in P2 is the number 23 of Denahan, and he is really under attack now from Hamming, from Moynier, so I think he's going to have to go on the defensive for the remaining 8 laps of this race. So I have to wait and see how it's all going to unfold. Again, Denahan, we know he likes a car that moves around a lot in the corners. You can see it there. He gets down the throttle very early, lets the car slide underneath him, which at some tracks and some cars, I mean, this car does like to move around. It's a very good trait to have as Moynier to the inside in 130R. This would be a huge move if he could pull it off. Like Moynier, almost contact. Does he get it off on the brakes into the Casio triangle? Wow. Loic Moynier, take a bow, overtake of the day. That is superb.
Good stuff. Banging wheels through 130R. It's a great job none of them got on the curb, because we saw earlier how dangerous that can be. It's not over yet. Hamming will have a better drive out of the final turn now. And Hamming is probably the fastest driver of the two right now. Goes to the inside of Loic Moynier. And that is another dangerous corner to go side by side through, and he does get the move back. Amazing driving between the two of them. This is a battle for the ages, as they do lose time to Jake Denahan in all of this. Hamming, remember, was catching Jake Denahan before, but not quick enough for Loic Moynier's liking. He wanted to go for it by himself, trying to force the issue. There you see a replay of it up the inside towards 130R. Frank probably thought he wasn't actually going to go for it and was going to hang back towards the Casio triangle, but he was very much mistaken. Through went Loic Moynier. And at that point, Hamming's job was to set him up on the exit of the chicane, and he managed that just as well. So Hamming was able to get back past Loic Moynier and back up into 4th position. And now he's probably thinking, goodness, please do not try that again. We're going to let Jake Denahan get away at this rate. And they go back on the hunt. So 6 laps remaining, 7 including the one that we're on right now. And the race not quite drawing to its conclusion just yet, but it's not too far off. The time will definitely be taking down at a faster rate than some of these drivers would like, and not fast enough for drivers such as Tom Stevens, or McGorgy, potentially even Jake Denahan. I mean, there's not much chance that he's going to go any better in the order at this point in time. So I think he would be quite happy to see the checkered flag, even though he would be losing points to Owen McGorgy in this. Another thing to remember is that if the race was to finish like this, McGorgy and Denahan would both keep their mathematical championship hopes alive. Realistically, though, again, it's Tom Stevens is to lose at this point in proceedings, but you know, keeps it exciting if the championship goes on for as long as possible, hopefully to the final round. Here's Stavros Muzeidis now slipstreaming, and that is on Federico Rosso, so he goes to the inside. This is for the final points paying position, and a good move from Stavros Muzeidis there. Points going down to 15th place, and the reverse grid pole, remember, could be anywhere between 6th and 10th in this race, so that's another position you've got to look out for. Could be anywhere between Stephen Lexo and Menno Plont right now. And if you finish 6th, which is currently held by Stephen Lexo, then you're guaranteed to benefit from the reverse grid draw. So Lexo in a good position right now. Under pressure though from Darius Andre.
Some great racing there from Frank Hamming and Loic Moynier, but now Hamming on the attack for the podium with Jake Denahan, who is again struggling in this phase of the race on those medium compound of tyres. And Frank Hamming is in a very good position if he gets a good exit from the Casio triangle, which he looks like he may do, as Denahan gets a slow entry. A little bit of a wobble from both of them on the exit. Hamming will have the DRS, and this could be another slingshot attempt from the number 73 driver. Just look at the speedy gains down the hill. He's going to have to go the long way around. Does he keep it? No, decides to back out of it.
And Andre gets Lexo in the background. Andre up to P6 now, ahead of Stephen Lexo. So, unlike Frank Hamming, whose move was unsuccessful due to being forced to the outside, Darius Andre was able to get through and up into 6th position there. 5 laps remaining. Sorry for the interruption, Ross.
No worries, Caitlin. Good to see that Darius Andre continues his move forward as Lexo, another driver, just struggling in this phase of the race. Yellow flag in sector 2. Hopefully everyone okay. And it's gone as quickly as it arrived. And actually, Hamming's now been held up by Dennehan because Moynier now looks like he's on the back of Hamming once again. It might have just been the camera angle, but potentially having another sniff is Loic Moynier. This battle for third heating up lap after lap. And Stevens, I believe, he's either made a mistake or McGorgy's turned up the whip because he's now dropping slightly back from McGorgy with only a handful of laps left to run in this race. Hamming, a lot of understeer through the second apex of Spoon. That's going to cost him heading down the back straight, and that opens the door for Hamming or Lord Moynier maybe as they come up to 130 yards. So now it's going to be Hamming under attack with the DRS. Moynier won't make the move into the Casio triangle, I don't think. He's having a look to the outside anyway, but no, he's too far back. Decides against it, but if he gets a good exit, he'll get the DRS. Hamming a little bit wide, that'll compromise his entry into the left-hander. And on the run down now, Moynier with the DRS should be looking for the overtake. They all take the long way. There goes Hamming trying to break the toe as Moynier, I think he may actually have a bit of dirt on his tyres. He's weaving rapidly left and right, or maybe checking his sim rig potentially. That's very strange. So maybe Moynier having issues with his wheelbase. That could be something to consider. Perhaps so it's overheating, he's losing force feedback. I have seen that before, not in this game. But I know it's an issue where drivers, if the wheelbase starts to overheat, you just start to lose force feedback. You start to lose that connection with the racetrack. And that can be a big problem, especially late in the race when you're fighting for P3. If all you can go off is what you can see and what you can hear. If you lose feeling with the car, it is a massive, massive disaster for a lot of drivers out there. And that's very wide by Denhan out of Degner too. So once again, Hamming looking to be under the attack as they come through the second sector. So Hamming, yeah, once again, gap closing up, so Hamming will be looking to get a good run out of Spoon. Hopefully not get any understeer. And then once again, get the DRS down the front stretch. As they come into Spoon curve now, we've got a whole host of understeer through the second part. Does he get it this time? No. Much tighter, much better from Frank Hamming, but he actually apexed a little bit too early, so that'll cost him some time. And now, like, Moynier looks like he might be gaining the advantage, so we'll have to see what the exit to Casio is going to be. This battle, you just don't know who's going to do what. It's really just a game of chess, trying to set the moves up and trying not to make mistakes and just hoping your opponent gets a weak entry or a weak exit to the corner. Looks like Dennehan was clean through there that time. Lap 24-26, not long left to go in this race, and yet McGorgy has turned the wick up. He is now comfortably pulling away from Stevens, and I don't think any of these guys are going to be making a move this lap. All a little bit too far away, but this battle for P3 is still hotting up, and Dennehan a little bit slower through the entry of the opening corner. On board with Menoclon, is he going to be able to have a look with the DRS, gets a whole host of speed? Does he duck to the inside? No, he's going to have to go the long way around. Zabinski defends? No. Menoclon decides to back out of the move and actually runs wide through the second part of the corner. So Menoclon will have to settle for P10 for the time being. Federico Russo, though, trying to get through to P16, looking past Moritz Kropp. Can he get the move done? Kropp breaking the toe this way and that way. Russo, no. Again, gap not quite there, and both of them actually running slightly wide, but Russo, the wider of the pair. Great save on the exit of turn 2 there. Look how close Frank Hamming is to Jake Dennehan there. Or should I say, look how close Loic Moynier was to the back of Frank Hamming at the exit of the hairpin, but just unable to capitalise. So it's all about this final sector, really. It's very much a game of cat and mouse between this top 3, 4 and 5th, should I say. It's all about, how good your exit is there.
Spins. Moynier spun, I'm afraid. He was running 5th for quite a long time in this race. Of course, he made a little mistake earlier on, but unfortunately this time has made a big mistake. He spun the car around, he's dropped down to 8th position. I told you Spoon Curve was difficult. It looks as if he realised he was heading... Yes, he realised he was heading for the outside curve quite late. and almost panicked really and spun the car around. And of course then the curb wasn't going to help him, so ended up going for quite a fast rotation. So he is now being passed by, and there's Frank Hamming attacking Jake Dennehan. It's now being passed by Darius Andre, Stephen Lexo and Amari Watson, and is struggling to get it round. Here is Munier trying to repass Rafał Lukaszewski, who's a lap down on him and probably shouldn't be holding him up so much right now. Stevens' last few laps have looked good, so I don't think he did make a mistake. I think it's just that the gap seems to have been coming out and then in again quite a lot, so I think it might just be something on the timing screen that's making it look like it changed a bit. There's Munier's spin from on board. It looked like it started spinning before he reached the curb, but the curb definitely finished it off and stopped it from maybe just being a little twitch or something along those lines. So he is no longer in that fight for third. Still in a good position for race 2, so don't count out Loic for some good results so far today, especially since, if you remember, he won the FS2 race from reverse grid pole. But for now, down in 8th position is Frank Hamming. It is the most exciting battle at this point in the race, the one that could go to the end and could change on the final couple of laps of this race. Owen McGorgy starts the final lap now, so there's only going to be one more real opportunity for Jake Dennehan and Frank Hamming to swap places here. I think Dennehan, he's done enough for this DRS zone. It's just going to be down to the Casso Triangle now that they're going to get a chance, I think. Maybe the hairpin if there's a really bad run. In the background, there's Darius Andre and Stephen Lexo.
Oh, Lexo off the road.
And Lexo in the corner where both he and Andre have had issues earlier on, runs wide. Meanwhile, Alexander Ragosa into the pits on the final lap. That's interesting. I don't know why he's in the pits there. I don't think he lost a wing or anything, but anyway, returns to the race. Quite a way down the order now. There's Stavros Muzeidis attempting to go around the outside. Yellow's out there somewhere. Ragosa losing even more places coming out. Oh look, Munier just lost a place. Here's a replay of something. Is this Munier again? This is Stephen Lexo. But yes, Munier is continuing to lose places. He's just dropped behind Ziabinski and Klont here. So something definitely happening to the other multicourse car. Here's Lexo on Andre, went to the outside and got on the
shoved wide. Shoved wide by Dennehan and just on the marbles as well, and that did him over, unfortunately.
Loic's incident was another case of just too fast into a corner with not enough rear grip. Here's Owen McGorky though, and by 6 seconds he is going to win the first race here at GPVWC FS1 at Suzuka, and he does so, keeps the championship mathematically alive until the next round at least. There's that close race for P3. So Stevens was P2, then Dennehan and Hamming raced to the line, but Jake Dennehan claims the final podium position there. Frank Hamming P4, Darius Andre P5, then it's Stephen Lexo, Amari Watson, Matthias Ziabinski, and Munier does repass Menno Klont out of the final corner. So Menno giving the place back up to Loic Munier, obviously felt sorry for him or something along those lines, and Loic retakes P9, so Menno P10, then it's Maurice Brackhan, Adrian Faber, Mirko Lucchini, Stavros Muzeidis, and Moritz Kropp. And there is a replay, and that is Stephen Lexo on the final lap of the race, although we're attempting to look at something else. That's okay, Szymon. Here's Loic Munier. This is the spin that occurred as he went... He wasn't on the curb, he was nearly on the curb, didn't quite touch it, just looped it around anyway, so round he went.
Great avoiding action from the valet driver there as well.
Yes, good stuff, but unfortunately through went a couple of drivers after all of that. Moritz Kropp did pick up 1 point in the end there, still quite a big shame by his standards. Moritz can definitely do better than that. McCorky spins the car around, which you're not really supposed to do anymore. Not sure if he did that deliberately or whether he just got a little distracted and carried away on the in lap. But anyway, Owen McGorgy wins race 1 here at Suzuka. by 6.280 seconds, his finishing margin. And fastest lap goes to Frank Hamming, as you see the full finishing order there.
Yeah, McGorgy doing some donuts. To be fair, it's been a while since he's been on the top step of the podium. A very well-deserved win with Tom Stevens in P2. Jake Dennehan takes third, with Frank Hamming in fourth, Darius Andre fifth, Stephen Lexo sixth, Amari Watson seventh, Matteo Sabinski eighth, and then the Multiforce GP guys, Loignet and Clont, they round out the top 10. 11th with Bracken, 12th was Faber, 13th Lucchini, 14th Mercedes, 15th was Moritz Gropp, 16th was Federico Russo, Alexander Ragozza was 17th, and then we've got a few lapped cars. We've got Kasper Michalak, Rafael Lukaszewski, and Vincent Gutt in P20, and then Damien Kardash and Perseus Miram as well, the final runners, when we lost, unfortunately. Philip Koenig, Noah Tumola, Remco de Joux, Massage Heiler, Mike Quinn, and Gerrit de Vries. But of course, there's a race 2 still to come, so there's still an opportunity for them to come away from tonight with a smile on their face.
Indeed. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching race 1. Don't go anywhere. We do have race 2 coming up, but we are going to go for a very quick break just to allow me and Ross to rest our voices while the warm-up session is going on, and we will be back for race 2 in about 10 minutes now. Hello everyone, welcome back to GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 round 14. This is the second race that we're about to see. It's going to be 18 laps of the Suzuka circuit, presumably with no pit stops. There are no mandatory pit stops anyway, although of course you're free to change up your strategy as you see fit. Mike Quint in the game chat saying 2-stop right, guys? Question mark. Jake Danahan, yeah, 3-stop. No, not likely. Not likely. Just a bit of pre-race banter. Anyway, so the reverse grid number has been drawn, and it's 9, meaning that the top 9 cars will be reversed, and that will put Loic Mounier on pole position. And that's interesting because, of course, Mounier was potentially a bit out of place by the end of race 1, and a little further down the order. But of course, if you remember, his teammate Menno Klont gave him 9th position out of the final corner. And if he hadn't done so, then Loic right now would be starting from 10th position, and it would be Menno Klont on pole, which would have been. I mean, it would also have been interesting. Of course, theoretically, it would have been just the same for Multiforce. Although with Loic being so quick today, I think that it's worked out better for them this way, and we're going to see a real charge from Loic Mounier. Hopefully he doesn't overdo it slightly in race 1. Of course, had a few incidents, ended up going for a spin at the end that cost him a good result, and he ended up 9th as a result of that. But anyway, you also have to factor in that the 8 cars starting immediately behind him finished ahead of him in race 1, and of course can definitely do it again in race 2. Providing they keep themselves clean and they're just as fast as before. It's going to be a difficult one to pick a winner, but it always is in race 2, considering that the drivers are increasingly quicker back to 9th position, in theory that is at least, and it's a difficult circuit to overtake on. Ross, we're about to get underway for the, well, we need to go to the race session first. We're still waiting for the session to take over. But yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. Had a very interesting race 1, a battle of strategy and a race of attrition as well. But coming into this one again, it's all about just making your tyres last those 18 laps, and race 2s as well. If you're familiar with the GPVWC Formula Sprint 1, then I'm sure you're well aware they're usually a bit more hectic than race 1s. So, well, a potentially very interesting race on our hands here. 18 laps of this nearly 6-kilometre circuit here at the Suzuka International Circuit, or its virtual counterpart anyway. And I am very, very excited to say the least. The checkered flag should be out in the warm-up session, so we're just waiting for the final few laps to be set before we make our way onto the grid. Loic Mounier will be starting from the pole position, so could be very interesting to see what happens as race 2 unfolds. Again, mathematically, the championship can no longer be won this weekend this evening rather, by Tom Stevens. Keep getting it confused with other championships that are on Saturdays and Sundays. But the championship will be going to the next round at least, and possibly to the final round. Them, of course, being the Mexican and Brazilian rounds of the calendar. The Autodromo de los Carlos Pache, and Mexico is Autodromo Los... I can never remember the name of the... Carlos Hermanos, I think that's the one.
Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
That's the one, something like that. And then Carlos Pache. There's too many Autodromos going on. Tell you what, just Mexico and Sao Paulo. That's what we all know them as. Before we head to those 2 circuits to round out the 2022 Formula Sprint 1 season. So the championship will at least be going to the next round in Mexico City. But of course, it could very well be heading to the final round in Brazil as well. So that opens up a lot of options here. You know, Tom Stevens, he can afford to have a bad race now because he knows the championship will be going to the next round. But again, he won't want a bad race because he wants to maximise his championship capabilities heading into the next round. Well, Owen McGorgy, again, he'll be wanting to pick up another win if possible. But it's a tough ask in race 2. You've got to fight your way through the pack. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens.
Indeed. Looks like we might still be waiting for some people to join the server before we can send the session through. Federico Rosso was one of those, although he's made it back now. And now the race director is set in the grid position, so I think it looks as if we are going to head to the next session now. 2 drivers have not made it back, presumably those who were either a bit disgruntled after their race 1 retirements or have had disconnections or something along those lines. But yes, it appears we have 2 fewer drivers than we did for the start of race 1. and still waiting for the session to take over, but it should do any second now. And now it does. Fantastic. Frank Hamling, I'm afraid, is no longer in mathematical championship contention, although realistically his fight was for second or third in the championship anyway. He wasn't really going to be able to challenge Tom Stevens. Denahan and McGorgy will still be in contention at the end of this round, no matter what happens. But that is only mathematical. It's all up to what they do and what Tom Stevens does at the next round in Mexico that will decide whether it goes down to the final round or not. And I very much hope that it does. Although every time Tom Stevens finishes on the podium, like he just did, it looks less and less likely. Here we are then. We are now in the race session. We have 20 seconds until the start of the formation lap and until we can run you through the starting order. And when you look at the starting order, see if you can pick out who you think is going to challenge for the victory here. There is some real standouts in the list of names that could well come through and have a challenge. Here we go then. We've got someone... That happened in race 1, didn't it? The creepiness going on at the mid-pack. But anyway, away we go. And let's get the starting order up on your screen so we can show you who is starting where.
Right then, let's get going, shall we? On the formation lap, Loic Mounier starts on reverse grid pole with Matej Subinski alongside him. Amari Watson starts in third with Steven Lexo in P4. Moving further down the grid, P5, we will have Darius Andre. Frank Hamling starts sixth with Jake Denham in seventh and Tom Stevens in P8. P9 will be your race 1 winner, Owen McGorgy. His first victory in a while, and the top 10 is rounded out by Menno Klont, with Maurice Bracken and Adrian Faber, the 47 and the 33, making up row 6 of the grid. Further down in P13, we have Mirko Lacini, and P14 Stavros Mercedes, who, again, a strong race 1 from him, with Moritz Kropp in P15 after a recovery drive from a crash in qualifying. And P16, I didn't quite catch who that was, unfortunately, but Alexander Ragota is 17th with Kasper Michalek in 18th. Rafael Lukaszewski is 19th with Vincent Gutt, the 79 valet driver. He rounds out the top 20. 21st is Damien Kardash with Perseus Miram in 22nd. Philip Koenig is in P23 with Noah Tumola in P24. We're now getting into the retirements from race 1. Of course, you start race 2 from where you begin. Remco Jizu starts 25th. Mike Quint starts 26th. And it looks like we've got 2 drivers who have opted out of race 2, which is a shame, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. That's your grid for race 2 here. 18 laps of the Suzuka circuit. And Loic Mounier, who was looking fast in race 1, will be leading them away from the 5 red lights. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fares out there. Presuming all drivers are going to be starting on the harder compound of tyre, that should easily be able to go to the end of the race. So we'll have to wait and see.
Philip Koenig appears to be on these softs, as do Remco de Joux. They are the only 2 drivers out there who have gone for those. And since it's customary for me to pick a driver to win race 2, and then they tend to... Perseus Miram's also out there on softs. And then they tend to do badly as a result. I am, unfortunately, this time going to have to put my curse on Amari Watson. Earlier this season, he struggled to pull off overtakes in the second races, but I really think that he's learnt from that later on in the championship, and I think that he's set for a good one here. However, Loic Mounier, of course, was very quick in race 1. He's going to be difficult to overtake. I just think that he's potentially a little less experienced. I mean, he is a little less experienced. And I'm going to say Amari Watson for the win here. But keep your eye on it. It could be pretty much any of these drivers. He starts alongside Steven Lexo, who also could be potentially out of order. And make sure you leave your predictions in the comments too if you would like to do so. Here come the lights, and out they go right now. So Mounier leads away. Ziabinski with a decent start, actually, is going to be right up the inside of Loic Mounier towards turn 1. And this could be a change for the lead already. Watson is on the inside in 3rd place there, and Ziabinski does get the lead. They lock wheels a little bit, and I'm going to sneeze for us. So take over.
I will take over. Amari Watson, it looks like he's taking the lead. Caitlin Leds loose as we get going out here at Suzuka for race 2. Amari Watson, of course, took the race 2 victory in Singapore last time out, so looking to follow it up with a second victory this season. Menno Klont holding on to P10 for the time being. Looks all clean on the opening lap. Stephen Lexo in P4 there. Good start from him in the 77. So, all action stations out there for 18 laps. And it isn't actually, it's saying Zabinski now leading. So, Mari Watson's having issues. So, Zabinski now into the lead of the race. Okay, that's a shake up.
Into turn one. Munier
it wasn't turn one. I do apologise.
Got up the inside. So Zabinski now leads this race. There's a yellow flag. Federico Russo is pointing backwards in the gravel, and Noah Tuamela is the other driver involved. He's missing his front wing as Russo now rejoins. He still has his front wing, but a lot of time lost. The race continues now. Zabinski leading, followed by Munier, then Watson, Lexo, Andre, the top five. Watch them down into 130R. See if they all go through here single file. More yellow flags out there somewhere. Tuamela is our first retirement from this race, I'm afraid to say. There are a few drivers going side by side for the back. Darius Andre took a look there on Stephen Lexo, stays P5. And we go now on to the second lap of the race. More drivers dropping. Moritz Kropp might have been affected. Moritz Kropp has been affected. Lucchini's got no rear wing as well. Here's Andre to the outside of Watson. Look at, not Watson, sorry, to the outside of Lexo. They're three wide with Darius Andre splitting the needle. If he gets this move, oh my goodness, he's up the inside. Great move from Darius Andre. That's 2 in 1. Darius Andre up into 4th position. Amazing stuff. I mean, sometimes it doesn't necessarily pay to be aggressive. He's been a little over-aggressive in the past. But this time round, that worked absolutely perfectly. Great driving from Darius Andre. Here's a replay of something or other. This is Federico Russo. Meanwhile, into the pits at the end of that lap came Remco de Schue. There is Federico Russo getting clobbered from behind. That's where it all happened before. That's where Tuamela ended up losing his front wing. And Koenig seems to have been involved as well. I don't know if that was Koenig actually. I think that might have been the other built-in car, Perseus Miran. Damien Kardash was in the pits at the end of that lap. There's Moritz Kropp going for a spin. And I presume that's where drivers checked up and ended up getting involved. Yes, that all happened behind them. And Mirko Lucchini also into the pits at the end of that lap. Remco de Schue badly affected. Down into turn one. That is Darius Andre's amazing move, going through the middle of 2 other cars and making it work on the exit. You don't get much more opportunistic than that. And Darius Andre, if he's not on the podium at the end of this race, I think he'll be disappointed, because he has made such a good start and put himself in such a good position here. Now, on the next lap, DRS will be enabled, and that's important because we still have a DRS train heading all the way down, pretty much to the back of the order, that hasn't been affected by incidents yet. Down to 13th, the DRS train from the lead right now, showing you just how affected a lot of these drivers have been, but not up the front. Philip Koenig, meanwhile, fastest lap of anyone on those soft tyres. He's just passed Maurice Bracan to 16th position now. 25 cars still remaining, so though some of them have been into the pits, the majority of cars who started the race are still running, and up the front, the order potentially about to change as the DRS is active.
So here we go then. Begin the DRS train. Zabinski leads from Mournier, from Amari Watson in third. Of course, no DRS until we get to the front straight. But it seems to be this race a lot closer. Again, all these drivers out there at front on the same tyres. And, well, it's very much just going to be how much can you hold on to said tyres. Can you take them to the end of the race? So, well, some of the drivers out there on mediums is a bit keen, if you ask me. But, well, going to be interested to see how they go moving forward. Look, Mournier looks like he's dropped a little bit back from Zabinski coming through the middle sector. But again, with the DRS, that can all change. It's very, very powerful here at Suzuka, because you get, not only do you get obviously the big slipstream, but you're going downhill as well, so you've got gravity on your side, so you just go even faster. But Mournier misses the first apex of the Casio triangle. Manages to get it slowed down enough for the second left. Oh, that was someone going sideways in the background. Stavros Mercedes managed to keep it going though, and managed to hold on to P12 as well, so I think he lost the place to Faber. But again, look at the train coming down into turn one. No moves being made, but it just shows how close it is out there.
I was sure at least someone in the top 3 was going to have to worry about a car going side by side with them. That's almost 3 wide. Mike Quint stays 14th there, ahead of Philip Koenig and Kasper Michalak, right behind them as well, Maurice Bracan. The DRS train has been split in 2 or 3, I'm afraid to say, but even so, there were a couple of drivers under threat down into turn 1. This is Mercedes' attempted move on Adrian Faber, went up the inside, and this is where we saw him going sideways. Tiny bit of contact, good save from Stavros Mercedes, didn't light up the rear tyres, didn't spin it like he might have been inclined to do. And rejoins the race. That was, Andre was taking a proper look there at Watson, trying to make him go defensive. And Watson might do to go defensive here into Spoon, because we've seen how aggressive Andre is driving so far today. I wouldn't put it past him going for a move here. He's up the inside, but does bail out of it, and does well to keep it off the curb as well. Both of them do. He's going to have a worse run down towards 130R, but the slipstream might bring him back into it, so he can set it up for turn 1 this next time around. There's Loic Mounier. You see only 1 position lost. Mike Quint, the biggest gainer so far in the race, up 12 positions. And the biggest loser, I'm afraid, Noah Tuomela, the only driver to have retired. And up the inside, and Darius Andre gets up into third. Oh, and Watson gets spun. Watson gets spun around, and he's going to have to do a full 360 to rejoin the road. So what was that I was saying at the start about drivers I pick? Ooh, rejoining into the side. What was that I was saying at the start about drivers I picked for race 2 never doing very well? And Amari Watson has been spun. Darius Andre very nearly passed by Stephen Lexo, and Lexo also under pressure from Frank Hamming. It's now Andre 3rd, then Lexo 4th, and Frank Hamming 5th. I think it was Lexo who touched Amari Watson, forced him into a spin. We're a little early in the... Oh, sorry, we're a little late on the replay there. But if we can go back, we can hopefully see what happened to Amari Watson. And forced him to do that full 360 rotation in order to get back onto the road. Meanwhile, I'm keeping an eye on the leaders to make sure that nothing changes while we're not looking. There was the contact. It looks as if Watson was trying to line up Andre again by taking an attacking line through those corners. Wide in, tight out. The only trouble with that is that it caused the cars to accordion together, and Stephen Lexo ended up going straight up the back of him and spinning him around. No real excuse from Lexo, I'm afraid, because I don't think he was being touched from behind or whatever. And Amari Watson unlucky to be down in 17th place for us.
Yeah, big shame from Amari Watson there. A little bit of the commentator's curse, unfortunately, on your behalf, Caitlin. But
as always,
that's sim racing for you. Sometimes it doesn't always go your way, and that is a shame for Amari Watson. But still a three-way fight for this lead. Zabinski, Mounier, Andre, as we are about to head on to lap 6. Already a third of the way through this race. It has just flown by. And Mounier, he's looking close. Maybe he'll have a chance up the inside with the DRS. Already having a little bit of a look to the inside there, but I don't think the run's going to be strong enough. Maybe he'll duck out at the last minute. No, decides to back out of it. Some drivers making moves in the background as well. That looked like Tom Stevens.
Stevens and McGorgy, the two rivals who have come together a few times so far this season, went side by side. There's a yellow flag out there somewhere. But I'm really hoping that this fight continues on into the race, because I love seeing Stevens and McGorky race, even though it can get a bit feisty. There's been a collision further down the order, I'm afraid. Looks like Vincent Gutt and is that Maurice Brackham have come together? It was Rafał Lukaszewski, I'm afraid, that collided at 130R, and Brackham... Sorry, so Lukaszewski's still in the race there, but we have now lost Vincent Gutt, and now Lukaszewski retires. It looks as if Lukaszewski lost on the curb at 130R, and Gutt ended up going straight into the side of him, both of them into the barriers. So 3 DNFs from this race now, 23 cars remaining. The leader's still so close. The DRS train goes down to 6th position still. The top 6 in a fight for the lead. Denahan had a little twitch there, but I think he's still going to be on the back of this train. And we're heading down towards 130R again. Hopefully all these drivers are a little cleaner through. And the move we've just seen. Look how close Darius Andre is to Loic Mounier. Goes to the inside into the Casio triangle. And Mounier leaves it later and runs almost off the circuit. Just about keeps his wheels within the white lines. Denahan gets a great run and goes right around the outside of the final turn. Lexo gets involved, opens the DRS. They're both going to pass Loic Mounier here. And Lexo will now be side by side with Darius Andre. Not quite. And Andre is second. And Mounier is still there. Around the outside again. If he can keep it there, he'll be on the inside. Lexo gets third. Mounier onto the grass. And a little wide, but they stay in the same order. Fantastic stuff. And it's Andre in second, then Lexo, Mounier, and Hammond.
We've got the replay here of what happened to Vincent Gutt. Currently seeing his pit box, but so here we go. Vincent got out of the race on the run up to 130R. Did he run wide or make a mistake?
Lukashevsky did, so you're going to see him having absolutely nowhere to go here. So Lukashevsky
just caught the curb and goes to the inside. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah,
that is unfortunate.
Since you do feel that if Lukashevsky had held his brakes, that would have been okay. But anyway, they come together and they're both out of the race now. Here we are. We're not quite halfway through yet. Halfway through the end of lap 9. Stephen Lexo on the back of Darius Andre. Loic Mounier still involved in that fight, not wanting to let them get away. I was expecting more from Loic. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting him to still be in the top 3 at this point. And here comes Stephen Lexo once again. And there's been a move further down the order as well. Philip Koenig able to get up into P12. Faber just scrapping away with Zadis into the Casio triangle there, but the real move happened behind him. Here comes Stephen Lexo to the outside line. The side-by-side further back, but Stephen Lexo sweeps not through. He stays down in P3. That's just like a move that he attempted in race 1 that didn't quite work. And also, Frank Hamming stays 6th there, despite attempting to pass Jake Dennehan for that 5th position. So it's Ziebinski, then Andre, Lexo, Mounier, Dennehan, Hamming, Stevens, McGorgy, Klont and Faber at this point in the race. Owen McGorgy still in 8th position, hasn't really come through the field particularly quickly. And keep your eye on that one, because I've been expecting a bit more from McGorky as well. I think it's probably because Stevens has been struggling to get past the cars ahead of him. And obviously Stevens is not really that willing to let McGorgy get through anytime soon. More yellow flags out there sometimes, and Mike Quint has spun. That's at Degner 2, rejoins the road now, down in 19th position. And we're going to see a replay of what just happened to him. He was racing in and amongst the drivers a little further up the order, and he was lucky he spun it on the entry actually, because if you spin it on the entry, you're much more likely to keep it out of the wall than if you spin it on the exit. And he was able to just about keep it out of real trouble. Into the Casio triangle once again. Can Darius Andre set up a move on race leader Mateusz Ziebinski, who he's really caught on this lap, Ross?
Yeah, so on board with Darius Andre, looking to get the DRS. I'm not sure he's going to be quite close enough. With just 10 laps left to go. He's going to have a look. No, actually, I was mistaken. Darius Andre looks to the inside. Can he make the die? Oh, has to back out of it. And then runs wide as well. Super aggressive, but super fair from Ziebinski to hold on to the lead. But Darius Andre was having a look and looks to have the pace as well. And that's side by side. Bracken trying to get through Amari Watson. Couldn't make the move done. And Tom Stevens and McGorgy in P6 and 7. And still holding
Dennehan's
on.
Dropped a few places there. Dennehan just dropped from P4, P5 down to P9. So something's happened to Jake Dennehan. Also, Damien Kardash is now out of the race. He's crashed on the exit of turn 1. Now, here's what happened to Dennehan, and it's a very similar mistake to the one that we've seen from a bunch of drivers. He gapped it up, actually, and then side by side with Frank Hamming, and they lock wheels, and Dennehan is forced off the road and through the gravel, and rejoins down the order. Doesn't spin while rejoining. It's just that obviously he was out of line and ended up losing places just because of how close they all were. And that could have been so much worse as well. Now here's Andre once again, still very close to Mateusz Ziebinski at the halfway point in the race now. The lead battle is well and truly on. We've got the top 3 separated by less than a second. Even if Andre wasn't here, Lexo would have the DRS. He goes to the outside line and tries to line it up through the S's. They touch again a little. They touch again on the exit. Surely this is Lexo's opportunity to get at least one place. Onto the straight they go. And again, we've got some slipstreaming. Again, we've got the DRS open. They snake over to the inside of the road. And hopefully no more contacts. I'm not sure they can take any more of it. Andre to the outside. Ziebinski maintains position. And still Ziebinski leads the race. This is really good defensive driving. Philip Koenig, I'm afraid, has had to pit on that lap. So his soft tyres have not been able to make it the whole way. But what a race to top 4 now within a second, Ross.
It is close out there. The top 4, Frank Hamming not far off them either. Oh my goodness me, what a race we've got on our hands. It's Zabinski, Andre, Lexo, Moynier, Hamming, your top 5, and Tom Stevens and Owen McGorgy in that fight as well. Andre, oh my goodness me.
Wow, he's going to lose out to Lexo. So Lexo goes up to P2, and Mounier, can he follow him through potentially? Not quite. There was definitely a gap there, but of course it's not the right shape of corner to pull a move like that, really. Oh, this is tight into spoon curve. This is not the place you want to be forced into a move, but Andre felt that his hand had been forced, and wide goes Lexo, and now Mounier follows him through. Good driving from Mounier, and that was actually pretty fair, even though it was a little ambitious from Darius Andre, sorry. And even though it looked as if it may have been an accident in the making, it was fair. They stayed within the white lines. He wasn't forced off the road. Here comes Owen McGorgy. That's Stephen Lexo, sorry. Stephen Lexo involved, and Frank Hamming was side by side with him. Sorry, a little confused, and wide, and a big slithery slide from Loic Mounier cost him a few positions on the exit. Side by side now, and Tom Stevens is up to 4th. McGorgy passing Hamming. Stevens has slotted his way through into 4th. He might get 3rd here because Lexo's wide. Lexo very wide. Forced onto the curb, and McGorgy goes through, and the Nova Sim Racing guys swap. So that means Ziobinski, despite still leading, it's all changed behind him. So Stevens up to 3rd, then McGorgy, Lexo, Hamming, and Mounier now. The order completely shuffling around as a result of a couple of ambitious moves and a few mistakes.
Yeah, gets through Tom Stevens there. Superb, just taking the opportunities with both hands when he needs to maximise his points for the championship, and that was what happened to Loic Mounier. Just all sorts of sideways. Here's on board McGorgy, so there goes Stevens through on Hamming. McGorgy follows him as well. Stevens then with just a huge dive up the inside leg, so I don't think McGorgy expected Stevens to go through there. He kind of got boxed in and then tried to follow, and to be fair, did follow, so I got lucky, but you know, that could have been a lot worse for Owen McGorgy. Just got very, very lucky getting past his teammate there. So it's Stevens in 3rd. The front 2 have broken away. So despite Darius Andre's troubles on the previous lap, he's still in the fight for this lead with Matthias Zabinski. Through 130R we go. He's having a look to the outside of the Casio triangle. That is brave if he pulls that off. Zabinski squeezes the door, not quite shuts it, but just reminds Andre he's there, to put it politely. But now Andre very, very close. He'll have the DRS down the front straight, and he should have the move done. Gets the speed, all the way to the wall. That is aggressive from Zabinski, actually banging wheels down into the braking zone. Wow. But it will be Darius Andre with a mega move into the lead of this race on lap 12 of 18. But Matthias Zabinski, he's still there, still fighting him. Gets a lot of understeer though coming through the S's, and now Darius Andre is trying to disappear into the distance, and look at that gap already.
I cannot believe the moves that Andre is not just attempting today, but pulling off. Here's a replay of that move for the lead. He got the slipstream, he got the run, he went to the inside of Matthias Zabinski, who nearly forced him off the road, but just about gave him space. They went wheel to wheel through turn 1, they bumped wheels a little actually, and Darius Andre was able to get through into the lead. Amazing driving, and he is well on his way to becoming my driver of the day, I think. Amazing stuff there to get the lead of the race from Matthias Zabinski. Tom Stevens right behind as well. Meanwhile, I'm afraid Tom Stevens' teammate, Moritz Kropp, is out of this race, and what a terrible day he's been having. He's crashed at Lesmo 1, and I'm afraid I have to be quite harsh on Moritz here, because I know he can do way better than this. He's a much better driver. Here's Tom Stevens to the outside now of Matthias Zabinski. 130R coming up. What does he do here? He keeps his foot in. He keeps his foot in through 130R. He's going to the left into the Casio triangle and gives him space. Zabinski makes the corner. They all make the corner, and side by side go Lexo and Hamming. Now on the exit, there's going to be more runs, more slipstream, more DRS. We're on board with Stephen Lexo, who's on the back. Here's Owen McGorgy, sorry, he's on the back of Tom Stevens. Stevens goes to the outside. They're going 3 wide into turn 1, and they both pass Matthias Zabinski. Zabinski spins, he's sliding. Through goes Hamming, through goes Lexo and Denahan. And through as well goes Loic Mounier into 7th. So it's Andre first, then Stevens, McGorgy, Hamming, Lexo, Denahan, Mounier, and Zabinski, the top 8 in that order. The gap for the lead, 2 seconds. Can Andre clear off into the lead now? or is he going to be under pressure from Tom Stevens soon after that great move there from Stevens and McGorgy and others? Into turn one. Here's a replay. Ziobinski, I'm afraid, getting absolutely mugged in the first few corners of this lap. He didn't get the best of runs out of the final corner. He was freight trained by those two and then lost control of his car into the second apex. Another good save, but unfortunately at that point he was way too wide, not on the ideal line at all, and dropped down into 8th position. The order changes yet again, and there is Owen McGorgy challenging his championship rival Tom Stevens.
It's all open. Anything could happen here at Suzuka. Anything usually does happen in GPVWC FS1. And McGorgy looking to get past his championship rival, closing, having to lift off into 130. Gives him a bit of a nudge with the nose. Can he dive up the inside into the Casio triangle? Will he get the run? Oh, they make more contact. McGorgy still touching with Stevens. McGorgy will have the DRS, so should get the move down into turn one. 5 laps left to run. What is going on?
To the outside.
Dear.
McGorgy around the outside. Frank Hammond coming through. Great move. McGorgy second. This is the most respectfully I've seen these two drivers race each other in a very long time. McGorgy with a fantastic move. Tom Stevens is down into third, although still driving very well, and Frank Hamming not able to join him. I'm afraid Mirko Lucchini's just crashed out of this race as well. It's quite a crash fest at the back, I'm afraid. That was at turn one. Here's a replay of that move. McGorgy with the fantastic run is able to go to the outside and sweep through. That was Kimi Räikkönen style into turn one there. Tom Stevens, absolutely nothing to say about it. Knew that he was coming through. And what a race we are seeing today. Race 2 has absolutely lived up to expectations and exceeded them. After race 1, I was a little nervous about this one, but it looks like I should have been nervous for a completely different reason altogether. Now, can McGorgy catch Andre? Maybe not. If he does that, he leaves the door open for Tom Stevens, so Stevens is going to come back at him now. Up the straight they go. They're heading towards 130R. This is a recipe for disaster. They're giving each other enough room for now. I don't think either of them are going to lift off. They're side by side, but far enough alongside each other. And here comes Hamming as well. But this is brave from Owen McGorgy to keep his nose stuck in. He goes over the curb on the inside. Frank Hamming is going to sweep past him. Frank Hamming is going to get up into third place. We're on board with him now. McGorgy not able to get back in the slipstream. Now that he does, Hamming's going to go to second maybe. They're both going to pass Tom Stevens into turn one. They're having a go. Stevens under pressure, still on the inside. They rub wheels. Onto the curb goes McGorgy. He kicks up the grass. Frank Hamming is up to second. Amazing double overtake into turn one. It's so hard to pick a move of the race this time because everyone is showing their absolute A-game. Hamming second, Stevens third, McGorgy drops 2 places, but it is absolutely not over yet, and Denahan is with them. Here's a replay.
This is just insane action, isn't it? Nose to tail, Hollywood stuff. You can't script this, can you? Just wow. Look at that. I don't even know what to say. This is just superb. I mean, banging wheels all the way. Stevens.
Fair. Somehow
I mean, it's fair.
They're rubbing wheels, but they're giving each other space. They're not forcing each other off the road. This is proper fair racing between Stevens and McGorgy, the two drivers who have come together earlier in the season. Their team bosses have been at each other's throats, let alone the drivers themselves. And I keep watching this fight because, my goodness, it could still get ugly at any moment. But I'm so glad that we're seeing such a close fight. If this was Hamilton and Verstappen, they'd have forced each other off the road 5 times by now. One of them would have been in a gravel or a ditch ages ago. And somehow this race is still going, and there are other drivers involved too. Out of the final corner once again, more slipstreaming about to take place. Darius Andre is absolutely clearing off now. He's almost 3 seconds into the lead. He's pretty much got this win so long as the drivers behind him keep fighting. Stevens up the inside, goes to second. Great stuff. Stevens back into second place now, up the inside of turn one. Which, don't forget, even though we've seen people pulling moves into there time and time again today, is still a very difficult corner to overtake into. It's just that because it's pretty much the only overtaking opportunity on the lap, these drivers' hands have been forced and they are going for some very brave overtakes. Andre first, Stevens second, Hamming third, then McGorgy and Denahan. And from second back to 6th, 7th, 8th. The order is, it's a complete toss-up right now, possibly even further back than that. Faber Ragosa's just been off the road. So Ragosa was running 12th, he's just been off the road. He's down into 14th place. There he is, rejoining. Now down into 15th because Kasper Mikulak goes through. So I'm afraid some more points lost for Alexander Ragosa there. We have just 2 laps remaining after this one now. And like I said before, the podium positions, an absolute toss-up. Here's the mistake from Ragosa, losing a couple of points paying positions. The car getting away from him into the Dunlop curve. He spins fully around, and he's lucky he keeps the car running without slamming the wall on the outside of what is a very fast turn. Now, we're about to go into the start-finish straight once again, Ross. Take a deep breath.
Well then, here we go. Only a few laps left on board with Frank Hamming. Andre, unless he makes a mistake as he begins lap 17, the penultimate lap of this race. He seems to have this one in the bag, but Frank Hamming, McGorgy, Jake Denahan, they're all so close. And Hamming, look at the speed. Oh, this will be an easy move, won't it? Surely. Round the outside. No, Stevens keeps it on the inside, so not all done yet, but Hamming, excuse me there, he'll have an inside line into the S as he takes P2 once again. But again, there's still one more overtaking opportunity for Tom Stevens and McGorgy down into turn 1 on the final lap. I mean, I don't really have anything to say. Just watch and take it in. This is GPVWC at its finest. This is sim racing at its finest in Formula Sprint 1. And with championship still to be decided, Stevens and McGorgy, who are on board with now, looking to take it down to the wire. Frank Hamming, now we're looking for what I believe will be as he runs wide, and that would allow Stevens through. It does allow Stevens through. He'll have the inside line into, and he actually, I was about to say, he has the inside line into the spoon curve, but he's already got the move done. But then again, that then gives Hamming the DRS down into turn 1, so it's all Hamming's to make the move again, but he's still under pressure from McGorgy, who would love a podium to maximise his points output from this race too, again to keep his championship hopes alive as possible. Actually touching slightly as they head down the back stretch into 130R. This could end in disaster. Hamming to the inside, McGorgy to the outside. McGorgy backs out. He'll get the switchback though, surely, and the momentum with a better exit. Does he duck to the inside into the Casio triangle? McGorgy, that is absolutely brilliant. Sideways, put in front. Superb.
They touched again. That's going to allow Stevens to get away. Now, what is it for third place? They're onto the final lap of this race. Weaving is McGorgy. Look at Jake Denahan. Denahan is going to go up the middle. Denahan makes it 3 wide and goes third. What a move. Jake Denahan on the final lap of the race. It's not over yet. He could catch Stevens. He's less than a second behind him on the final lap of the race. And there's another heavy braking zone to come with the Casio triangle. What an overtaking maneuver from Jake Denahan to cap off what has been a stunning battle for second place back to pretty much the rest of the order all the way through. There's a mistake from Stephen Lexo that has not quite cost him a place to Loic Mounier, but it almost did. And I'm still keeping an eye on these guys on the final lap of this race because we've seen mistakes galore, and I'm afraid Loic Mounier has just made one. Loic Mounier has dropped to 10th place as we're speaking. There's the replay of Jake Denahan. We're going to see him be a gap and just go for it. That's how you race. Jake Denahan is a pure racing driver, and what an overtaking maneuver. That was amazing stuff. I've used the words amazing and fantastic more than I've used the word and today. This is great. Final couple of corners now. Andre's easily going to win it. He's 3 seconds ahead of anyone else at this point. And remember earlier on when he was fighting for the lead with, and look, and McGorgy's going for third once again on the final lap to the outside of the triangle, please. Oh no! They have touched, and around goes Jake Denahan, and he's going to reverse it through the final turn. Look at that. McGorgy gets third in a disappointing manner. Andre has won. Stevens is second. McGorgy third. Then it's Lexo, Hamming, Ziebinski, Klont, Musadis, Mounier, Watson, and Denahan. And that's gutting. That is absolutely gutting for Jake Denahan, who looked as if he was going to claim an amazing third position after a move on the final lap. Faber 12th, then Brackham 13th, Mikulak 14th, and Koenig claims the final points-paying position in 15th position there. I'm going to take a look back at the Denahan incident to see what caused that on the final lap. Unfortunately, it was pretty much guaranteed that there was going to be some sort of an incident with the drivers racing so hard. Of course, it looks as if one of those where Denahan will say that McGorky turned into him, and McGorky will say that Denahan turned into him, and they just ended up coming together. But I've got to say, with the overtake that Denahan had on the last lap, I mean, they both kind of turned into each other, didn't they? It kind of looked as if McGorky was still turning. Yeah, McGorky was still turning right on the exit of turn.
I think there could be a complaint coming McGorky's way on that one from the TCS
but Denahan was also already starting to turn into the corner, so that might actually be seen as a 50-50 incident. I think it might be. Whatever the case, I feel that Jake Denahan deserved the podium there, because with that move on the final lap, followed by an unfortunate incident, that is not how we like to see podium positions wrapped up. But I've got to say, what an incredible race that was. I mean, I know it wasn't particularly close for the lead in the end, but even so, we had a fight for the lead earlier on, and then we had that amazing fight for all of the other positions all the way through the race. There's the order: Andre, Stevens, McGorky, Lexo, Hamming, Ziabinski, Klont, Musadis, Munier, and Watson. As I load up the YouTube chat to see how crazy you guys have gone. I hope the crowd has gone absolutely wild for this one, because I certainly did. Then it's Denahan, Faber, Brackham, Mikulak, Koenig, Russo, Quint, Miram, Deju. Unfortunately, Ragosa did not make it to the end. He spun twice in in one lap, and decided to call it a day. And also DNFing were Lucchini, Krop, Kardash, Gut, Lukashevsky, and Tuamala. I absolutely cannot read all of these YouTube comments, because there are way too many of them. Yeetus My Meter saying, Luke Mitchell and myself made it through that final corner in a similar situation in FS2, and it was clean. Indeed, I mean, you definitely can go side by side through there, and they did do it on many occasions. It's just, I think, because of the last lap, they were both pushing extra hard and didn't want to give each other an inch, and we'll have to see what ends up happening as a result of that. And yeah, plenty more people commenting on the incidents and the overtakes and all of that we saw. But what an incredible race! I find myself saying that at the end of GPWC races so often, and sometimes it's kind of, I'm trying to hype it up a bit because that's my job, and sometimes I genuinely mean it. And in that one, I mean, I hope you could all hear it in my voice. That was absolutely thrilling. Russ, I'm sure you agree.
I mean, I don't really know what to say. Just absolutely phenomenal. You can't script stuff like that. That was sim racing at its absolute finest. Wow, what a race to have. What a night of racing we've had here at Suzuka. That was just phenomenal.
Absolutely it was. And how do you pick a driver of the day from that as well? There were so many drivers who absolutely stood out and deserved the strong results that they got. I'm going to remind myself of the race one order, because it's been so long. It was McGorgy, Stevens, and then Denahan in race one. And then in race two, completely different, Andre, Stevens, and then McGorgy. Anyway, we're going to move on to our interviews now. As you look at the calendar, just 2 rounds remaining after this, Mexico and Brazil. But we can now move on to our interviewees. I'm going to start with a driver who won the first race for claiming a hard-fought podium in that second race there. Owen McGorky, what a day of racing that was. Let's start with race one, since that is the race that you will remember the most fondly from today. A race victory, and after the first few laps, it looked quite comfortable for you there.
It was, yeah, very comfortable. I'll be honest. I think I attacked about 3 out of those 26 laps. To be fair, to be fair, I can't really remember much. What is there to remember?
What percentage do you think you were driving at in terms of like pushing capability?
Probably about 75%. But yeah, I was going to try and push to get fastest lap when I got onto the hards, but then I just didn't want to risk it. I had a massive gap after the undercut, and well, yeah, I think definitely until about lap 8, I was pushing at about 90% just to secure me from Tom getting the DRS. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty chill.
Wow, it sounds like you were like that old Shaggy meme. What if you used 71% of your power? Would you have lapped the field? Who knows? Um, anyway, amazing race 1 victory there, and your first for a while. It's been a long time coming since Melbourne. I don't want to rub it in, but I mean this has been overdue, don't you think?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I've been kind of rubbing it in for myself every race after getting about 8 second places in that time, and I saw between Tom and Jake they got 12 wins in the space that I got none, and I was really hoping for a win. I knew I had good pace, but I didn't know if I had the pace to win. Just because I can't really see anyone practice when they're all on private servers or offline.
For sure. Well, you've gained a lot of points in your fight for second in the championship today, at least. Jake Dennehan not having anywhere near as good a day. Race 2, let's talk about that. Honestly, there was so much going on that I couldn't really remember everything that happened. But one thing that does stand out to me is that you versus Tom Stevens was so respectful today. That's so refreshing to see. How did it feel from your point of view?
It was respectful for the most part, I'd say. There was one part which I'd assume was caught on the broadcast, but he pushed me off at turn 1 or turn 2. I can't remember what Suzuka.
Come on, there was space there.
There was space. There was some space. Not enough space because the car already gets really loose on that double curb. In practice, I was spinning there so much without even getting my left wheels over the second curb. But I can't really remember it too much. I just remember going on the grass and being scared that I was going to crash or rejoin badly, I guess.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we do have to speak about the end of the race there. What happened with Dennehan?
That was, after what happened in Belgium, I won't say who's my direct, thoughts on it, because I haven't actually looked back at this one yet. I didn't even escape until just after I started this interview, but I think it was just us two coming together. There was, I think, maybe just about some space, but Jake was always, I think, turning in, and he probably could have caught it because I had the same kind of thing with I think Frank earlier in the race where I lost it I went opposite lock and accidentally went into neutral and still got the exit. I can't remember how it ended up after the straight though.
I agree. I'm going to actually go on record and say I think that was a 50-50 incident as well, and I hope that neither of you are penalised for that because it would be way too harsh. What a race too. I'm in such a good mood after that. Congratulations, Owen, on your win and your third place. Russ, do you have anything to add for our double podium finisher and race 1 victor?
No, just well done. That was, I need to sit down after that one, to be honest.
Cheers.
I absolutely don't blame you. There's a few people in the interview room who I don't think were involved in this race. If any of you are listening, please get out of the interview room so I know who to drag in. But anyway, is Norman Biscuits Tom Stevens? Because it's spelled.
That's Adam Vaughan.
That's Adam. Okay,
But,
yeah, I was going to say
he shouldn't even be in here. But hey, I know he's watching the stream.
Because it says Tom Stevens, but it's spelt wrong. So
yeah.
I was wondering, what's going on there? Okay,
yeah.
Anyway. All right, so let's actually move on to the real Tom Stevens now. Tom, hello, can you hear us?
Hello, I can hear you. How are you?
Good. I'm okay, thanks. And I hope you're doing even better because you just claimed a double podium finish and got even closer to wrapping up the Drivers' Championship here. Let's start with race 1. How important was it to get between the Novas at the start of the race?
Well, it was crucial because the last thing I would have wanted is to get stuck behind one of them and then just watch Owen go into the distance. But luckily, I got past Stephen on the start. I believe it's because he was on the less grippier side of the track, so it's easier to get a good launch. And then the pace was there, but in the opening few laps, I had a screen freeze through the S's, and then I made a mistake at the hairpin, so that cost me about 2 seconds. And Owen was just bolting, I could just see it. And later on into the first soft stint on the tyres, I was managing to claw back the time, almost to the point where I was within DRS range, but then he boxed. And our theory was that we should stay out for at least another 2 laps, hope they hit traffic and try and jump them that way, but it didn't quite work out and I almost lost the place to Jake. So in the end, P2 is solid. I'm happy with that. Not too many points lost in race 1. So yeah, nice job, Owen, by the way.
Yeah, well, you've answered a lot of the questions I was going to ask about race 1. So let's move on to race 2. I cannot believe how long that battle went on and how much you were involved in that. And I mean, you pulled some double overtakes in that down into turn 1. That was stunning. How did it feel from you?
Well, that race, for most of it, I believe, was it Jake, Owen and me were all sitting in around 7th, 8th and 9th. And I couldn't really see us going much further higher than that because the pace here, everyone was pretty close and it was quite hard to pass. You just needed to defend the inside at turn 1. But every now and then, especially when the people's tyres started wearing, a few opportunities came and you just have to go for them. And luckily it paid off, but then, yeah, later on in the race it got extremely tense out there. Some really close fighting, but yeah, that was a really fun race to be in. And to come out of it with P2 again, yeah, I'm happy with that. It's better than what I was expecting this round.
I'm going to say the same thing that I said to Owen as well. It's actually really refreshing to see you and Owen having such a close fight after you've had a few little incidents earlier on in the season. But it actually looks super respectful out there between the two of you.
Yeah, well, whilst he is my championship rival, I do like to treat him like any other driver. I'll give him the same amount of space. I'll race him just as hard as anyone else. But at the end of the day, it was fantastic fun, and that's all that really matters.
Great to hear. You two are 2 mature young drivers. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Sorry, Ross, do you have anything to add?
Nah. I'm
Okay.
still in awe. I do apologise, Tom. Great job out there.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great job. Okay. Right. Next up, we're going to go back to Nova quickly, I think. Russ, would you like to speak to Josh Downard here, the Nova team boss?
Sure, why not? Josh, can you hear us is the first question.
Hello there. Yes, I can.
Awesome stuff. Well, Josh, pretty good results for you out there today. You must be feeling pretty happy.
Yeah, well, it was very interesting round. A lot of stuff happened, but yeah, I mean, it was good overall. I mean, obviously qualifying was pretty perfect, especially for Stephen. I mean, he hadn't done so much practice, but he just loves the track. So I think that showed through today. And then yeah, race 1. Struggled with the tyres a bit in the first stint, but then sort of after that carried it home for Owen. And then Stephen, obviously, when you caught up in some of the battles, it doesn't always go too well, but he did well today to still get solid points. So it's good stuff all around.
Yeah, no, the boys did a great job out there, and obviously looking forward as well. And the constructors and the drivers, you put yourself in a pretty good place going forward, still in the fight. So are you feeling confident moving to the final 2 rounds of the season?
Well, I guess teams a bit more than drivers. Obviously, Tom has just done a great job all season and pulled a good gap over Owen now after Owen's sort of bad luck in the last 2 rounds. So, yeah, obviously that would be tough. But, I mean, Owen showed today that he's still got the fight. He's still got the pace. So, obviously we'll do what we can to try and cut that points gap down, which we did a bit today. But obviously, yeah, without Tom sort of making mistakes, which he hasn't made many this whole season, it's going to be tough. But then for the teams, obviously, we're close to HGP in front. We outscored them quite a bit today. So, yeah, that'd be a close one. That'd be good. Interesting to see where we could go at the end there, but looking all right.
Yeah, looking all right. That's one way to put it. So what's the plan for the final 2 rounds? Just win all the races, win the championship, go drink?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the plan all season. We haven't quite pulled it off yet, but, final 2 rounds, we'll make sure to pull that one out of the bag.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Josh, and a great job out there for the team and by the drivers as well. Awesome.
Thanks, Ross.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I always like to do 4 interviews. I think honestly, at this point, there are two other people involved in this series in the chat right now. I'm gonna finally bring in. Let's speak to Stephen Lexo actually. Stephen, hello. Do you hear us?
Yes.
Very, very good. Now, Stephen, first of all, especially in qualifying, I noticed that pretty much the entirety of the YouTube chat was very much on your side. How have you done it? How are you so popular out there?
Well, first off, thank you very much, guys, in the chat. I hope that you weren't too disappointed by the race performances. Actually, I did the least amount of practice for this round in FS1, and but this is my all-time favorite track. So I was able to just find a rhythm very quickly. For once, I wasn't overdriving the car completely, so was quite happy with qualifying, and the races were not as good as I was lacking quite a bit of top speed, and maybe and made a mistake in race 1, or made rather 2 mistakes. One was quite costly as it overheated the tires quite a bit. But in general, thanks for Nova and Josh Downard for giving me the opportunity to drive on my, as I said, favorite circuit. And Super League is going to be next week for me, so I get another chance.
Indeed, fantastic job. And I mean, even though the races didn't go super well for you today, I mean, you look quick out there. Surely that's positive going into the final 2 rounds of this season.
Well, it's not planned that I do any more. I mean, maybe not for Nova, because George Whitehouse is going to do the final 2 races there. I still have one emergency drive left, so I will keep that for Brazil just in case that George has an issue and I have to step in for Nova, as I get along very well with Josh. So if he needs my help, I will be there. So let's see. But if everything goes to plan, I might be driving FS1 in Brazil for another team.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for speaking to us, Stephen, and congrats on your points today.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, now I know I said that was the last one, but I have been absolutely begged in Discord DMs to bring Toby Davis in for a very quick chat. Hello, Toby, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you very much. How are you?
I am okay, thanks. So, Toby, I saw you had a special livery out there today. Cancer awareness, right?
Yes, Cancer Research UK. I wanted to very quickly say something about it, if that's okay. So
that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so every year I do a special livery. I've done it in my real life racing, and I've done it in virtual sim racing as well. And it's cancers are something that I think we're all affected by. And if you guys want to, Cancer Research UK always have a fundraising section on their website, and I urge you all, if I know times are tight, but if you do have any cause to help fund, Cancer Research UK is probably the best. It's personally really helped us, and it helped kind of the feeling that was surrounding the family with the cancer that my poor grandmother had, and I think as causes go, look, everyone is affected by it. So anyway, the livery is in honor of that, and I like to put it on at least some of the cars at least once a season. So yes. Now, thank you, Caitlin. That's all I want to say before I get too emotional.
That's okay. I understand. Thank you very much, Toby. And,
thank you.
Always a great gesture.
Thank you. I hope you liked that livery. It was my favorite one I've done so far. So
it was good.
Thanks.
Okay, so that is all we've got time for today. But thank you very much to everyone I just interviewed. We got 5 interviews in today. We normally only do 4, but anyway. Yes, and also thank you to all of you for watching, as well as Szymon Frelik for being the broadcast director today, as usual. Ross McIntyre alongside me as well has had an absolute treat with some amazing races going on. Join us actually next week we have the Super Lights and then the Super League. So that's the main Super League Grand Prix. This time, the time that this broadcast started, but in a week's time, if that makes sense. So next Thursday. And then in 2 weeks' time, we have the Mexico City round of this championship, where Tom Stevens will probably wrap up the championship, admittedly. So keep your eyes out for that, and make sure you join us, because you will not want to miss that if today was anything to go off of. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you then. Good night.